Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's unbelievably fire-packed episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and Friends. And of course, I am your host, Mr. Boomstick XL. And like I said just a second ago, it is going to be a fiery episode. Lots of big topics with even bigger opinions. And of course, not only are we here with the regular Primetime Gaming crew, we also have a special guest, which we're going to introduce first and get his maybe a little bit of a background of where he falls into this community, because he's relatively new. First of all, he's a full-time dad, writer, creator of the Everborn universe, software engineer by day, and game developer and content creator / comic creator by night. Please welcome the Everborn. Welcome, my friend.
Hello, and hello out there in movie land, Xbox land. Thank you. I just want to say, before we get into who I am, I just want to say thank you to Boom and just this whole Xbox community. Like I had a podcast before. We talked about movies, and it was listening to your show, listening to the Iron Lords, listening to RDX, listening to Xbox 2, that you guys really support each other. And I cannot say that I've seen that in some other communities that won't be named tonight. But I want to thank you for the opportunity. As far as who I am, my name's Steve. But I am the creator of the Everborn saga. It is an epic fantasy story that it's a transmedia story that we tell through novels, comic books, and video games. We're developing our first game now, and we are 3 issues into our Everborn Prince of Arcadia series. And then we have Everborn Ariel's Adventure coming soon, and Everborn the Redlands. And every character in that story every series in Everborn is telling a different part of the same story. So it's like a POV chapter in Game of Thrones, but it's a manga. And we're also developing our pilot for our anime. And that's what I do at night. During the day, I'm a software engineer. I primarily work with the AWS cloud stack. I used to work for Citigroup, and I'm at another financial firm now. We develop enterprise applications. And
Nice.
that's what funds the whole Everborn enterprise.
All right.
Other than that, I'm on Twitter watching you guys and listening on YouTube in the background.
Well, we definitely appreciate you being here. And obviously, it is always, one of the things that you'll notice about this particular community is, like you said, we do support each other. We support each other through promotion, and we also support each other by having them on each other's shows. That's the real, I think that's what separates this particular community. And a lot of the community that you were watching are main Xbox guys and gals, and the Xbox community has been, at least in my opinion, very inclusive.
It also really feels like a family, and,
yes.
and that's to be commended.
Well, I mean, that is a great observation, and it's something that I look forward to pushing while having a voice in this community, and that goes from some smaller shows that I like to lift up right alongside with me to bigger shows like, of course, RDX, which is the #1 watched Xbox show on a weekly basis. And again, each of us support each other, and it's very it's refreshing, because obviously with social media being what it is, it can be nasty and it could be dirty and it could be very finger pointy, and that's just something that we try to all steer away from. But we're here to talk about games. But let's get into, of course, the introductions for the remainder of the panel. First up, you know him as the middle-aged gamer guy. I know him as someone that has been confused with Mooch from, of course, that other program that will stay unnamed. No, of course I'm kidding you. That's where I started my grassroots, movement to start my own show. And Crossfire is on Friday evenings, of course, at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you can find Mooch and the gang there each and every week. Mag, first of all, not only have you been mistaken for, of course, Mooch, which I have as well, which I don't understand. I think it's a New York thing, but somehow, even though you're from Canada, you sound like from New York. You have been mistaken for Billy Butcher of that show that has a lot of F words in it.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, good evening, everyone, and Everborn. It's an absolute pleasure to see you here on the panel with us tonight, and chat. The rest of the panel, I'm looking forward to a great show. Boom, it's going to be a great show. And yes, there are more than one Italian that yells out there. So yes, I am one of them. So anyways, we got some great topics tonight. So let's get into this show.
Absolutely. Next up, someone that recently changed his avatar to be brothers. And of course, he's talking about the Master Chief and the Doom guy. Please welcome the guy that will shoot you in your face and laugh while he's doing it, the Tempest Son. What's up, dude?
What's up, Boom? Good to be here, and yep, gotta rep that Master Chief and Doom crossover that someday we're gonna get, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, one could certainly dream that either an outfit or potentially some sort of a crossover could happen. That would be pretty epic, I would say.
Yeah.
But welcome to the show, my brother.
Oh yeah, yep. Let's get into it, man.
All right, excellent. We have a new channel member that just jumped in on the scene. Hyperknees became a channel member for Double Barrel Gaming. Thank you so much for supporting this channel that continues to grow. And obviously last week, talking about growing, my God, not only did the channel see over 900 new subscribers, which is ridiculous, but we saw over 60,000 views in 5 days. Ooh. Folks, that is a big deal for a little podcast that could, and we're hoping to obviously grow more, and we're going to bring you, again, weekly shows that are going to keep you entertained without being nasty, without, finger pointy, of course, and just bringing the facts, and I think that's what a lot of people enjoy. Next up, someone that is the voice of 4 Guys with Quarters and still on the search for that perfect calzone, though when he's living in Florida, I don't think he's going to get it. Please welcome the Italian Clowns. What's going on, dude?
Hey, what's going on, Boom? Always a pleasure being here. Really excited to talk with Everborn, man. Like, I'm excited about that creativity you got going. I'm a huge comic book nerd, and that manga stuff really, hits home for me. So excited about that, and I love everybody on this panel. And Boom, you're right. There is no perfect calzone here. But I talked to my wife,
it's the water.
and it definitely is. I'm trying to convince her that I should buy a caiman, which is a dwarf alligator, because it's legal in Florida, and she said no.
Of course. Well, she was giving you a hard time about a Series X, so I would imagine that she would give you a hard time about a dwarf alligator. Just saying. And listen, Clowns, great to have you, brother. And last and certainly not least, as we wait for Gaming Forte to make his entrance, our Cape Crusader, someone that I hope is reading The Three Jokers, which issue 2 comes out on the 29th, and I cannot wait. That book is ridiculously good. Please welcome Cybernox.
I didn't click only for a moment. Now the X is gone. I didn't get Cyber didn't get a Series X.
Oh, no. You're getting pure unadulterated.
What is going on, everybody? If anybody wants to sign me up for shows, I'm available. All right, voice of an angel. You guys heard it right here.
Still a better
What's going on, guys?
Twilight.
What's up, guys? Glad to be here at Everborn. A pleasure, sir. Can't wait to hear your comments on today's show. Love your intro. Yeah, just glad to be here on a Monday. Ready to talk some gaming with you guys.
All right, well, listen, let's get into the topics. And first of all, we're going to open up the show with the bits and bytes section of each and every show that I do. And these are smaller topics that necessarily cannot hold I guess a 30 or 40-minute block of conversation, but one that I think that, the audience might be interested to hear. Now, obviously, the Seagate storage expansion card has a confirmed price of $219. The big question that I'm going to be asking not only the chat, but the panel as well is, are you getting one, and are they too expensive for the current market? Now, one of the things that's interesting is I was looking into SSDs externally for, these new consoles to kind of help things along a little bit, because I have, about 14 terabytes of old, HD storage that is still going to be usable, but it's going to be lagging behind. So of course, with new consoles, you want the best of the best. So I looked into the Seagate 2.0, and it's a 2 terabyte drive. And guess what, folks? It's $300 after tax. So it makes you wonder, is this one memory, this 1 terabyte memory card that's the size of, I don't know, a quarter and a half, really too expensive? And I'll go to Everborn. Everborn, I know that you said privately that you were in the market for them. Did you purchase these, and how many did you get?
Not only, well, first of all, yes, it's too expensive. But the answer to the question is also, yes, I purchased not only one, but I purchased two.
Yeah,
because I'm hear me out. I ended up pre-ordering in the pre-order fiasco. I was lucky enough to get a Series S and a Series X from the Microsoft Store, and just as a backup, because I didn't want to hear any funny business like we're hearing with Amazon with the PS5 and some of the Xbox pre-orders that we might not get it. So I also ordered a Series S and a Series X from Best Buy. Now, this is fine. I'm not scalping. I got a lot of rooms in my house. They'll have homes. The Series S is my stocking stuffer. But that being said, I had to get one. I had to get one for my Series X and then one for the Series S, just because I'm too lazy to get the external one and copy everything off and then copy everything back on. That said, it is a fair price. However, because if you look on the market, try to find something with that kind of speed for that kind of price, I don't think you can find it. You might see a Seagate SSD, but is it going to be NVMe? Is it going to be like 4.0? Right? I don't know that you'll find that. And again, this is just quality of life. You don't have to buy this, right? Now, maybe you have some money left over because you subscribe to Game Pass and you don't have to spend $70 for the games. Sure, that's how I explained it to myself. But you don't need it. But I just want to be able to hot swap my SSDs in the back and switch it out depending on which room I'm in, because now apparently I have 4 Xboxes. So I don't have enough. I might get 2 more, but maybe I'm the wrong guy to ask.
Well, obviously, listen, the one thing you said is quality of life. And I think that a lot of people are immediately debunking the fact that why should we spend so much for memory? Well, you know what, again, for the size of the card and what it does, it is, in my opinion, just based on what I have seen, well over the market value. And again, like you said, try to find something of that size, that speed for that price. You're just not going to get it. So what's interesting is how long it's going to be before they drop in price. And that is going to be, whether it's going to be 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, who knows, as memory gets cheaper. And obviously Microsoft is, working with Seagate. I'm sure they're going to go out of their way to try and make it cheaper, and being able to offer it at a lower price at some other time. Maybe even Black Friday might be something that you could find, even if it's 20 or 30, or maybe even $50 cheaper, and maybe more people will jump on. Mag, I want to get your opinion on this, brother. But before I do, let me just catch up on some of the super chats. We have Nightwolf 3186 dropping the first super chat of the night, and it's a good one. It's $10. He says, "Hi, Boom. Hi, panel. Great to meet you, Everborn. Still calling GameStop every day for their second wave of Xboxes. By the way, Simon Cowell just hit the X button on Cyberknots. Just kidding. Have a great show, guys. Well, thanks so much for that. And we also have the middle-aged gamer guy drops an outstanding $5 super chat while he's sitting on the panel and says, "I'll send you my Series X Cyber as long as you stop singing."
Oh, success, baby, success. That's what I'm talking about.
That middle-aged game guy's a real treasure.
Yeah, he certainly is. Listen, Mag, when a lot of us were off on the price. I said $100.
Yeah.
And of course, I was, my goodness, 60% off of the price. But considering what we are getting for the size, for the speed, and what it does to make, going from game to game that much easier, like the gentleman said before, quality of life does play a big part when you have only a limited time to game. Are you getting 1, 2, or 10?
I am getting none. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm just going to be quite honest. I'm not going to get anything because if I already have what I need, which is already in the hard drive itself, in the console itself, I don't need anything else. Now the thing is, the way I game very much like Randall Thor. He plays one game at a time and finishes it, buries it, moves on to the next one. All right, unless it's a multiplayer game, like your Call of Duties, that kind of thing, whatever. And let's hope, by the way, that Call of Duty doesn't have like a 200 gig install. Okay, for the new one.
Oh yeah.
If they start with that nonsense, it's going to be a lot of problems. But anyways, let's get back to this. No, I'm not going to, because you know what? I'll just swap them in and out. I mean, how many games are we going to be getting? Honestly, that you're going to be purchasing. We're going to be getting, AC Valhalla. You're going to be getting your Cyberpunk. You're going to be getting your Call of Duty, and then we're going to get Game Pass games, which will stay in Game Pass. Because now that what's it called, ZeniMax is now part of the Xbox family, so we're going to be getting Doom Eternal on October 1st, correct?
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's staying in there now because they own it, so there's no rush. It's not like I have to sit there and, oh my god, I got to hurry up, put it on the hard drive. I'm going to play my 3, 4, 5, 6 games, whatever I'm going to be playing. There's plenty of room on there already. And, I believe Everborn talked about this before we actually started the show. In the pre-show, he was talking about it. It's more like a quality of life thing, and I kind of interpreted that as, you don't really need it. It's just something good to have, if you really want it and you want the extra space, you want the extra games. I personally don't really need it. And I have never, honest to God, I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of digital games. And I've never run out of space, because when I'm done with them and completely done with them, let's say I get 1,000 out of 1,000 achievements, or I get my platinum trophy on the PS4 or whatever,
you delete it.
I just move it off, and then I move it off to the cloud. And if some random reason I feel like picking that game up again for whatever reason, I could just re-download it because it's sitting there waiting for me in the ready to download section. So to me, it's not an issue. I'm already blowing enough money this fall. I'm hopefully getting the PS5. I already got 2 Series X on the go, waiting for those to come in, and a Series S. So I'm already spending enough money. I'm not going to spend, the equivalent of another Series S on something that I'm not going to use. And honestly, how many games are you playing at the same time? I mean, is it just like an aesthetic thing? You just like staring at the tile? But I mean, to me, you can't play that many games. So I think that there's enough space to start. Now, you did also say that, let's say next year, okay, maybe wait till Black Friday, 2021. You probably get these things for half price. Okay, so you know what I'm saying? And I have a feeling, I know this is really kind of sad, but I really do believe that after this fall season, it's going to be a real dry spell. Don't fool yourself, kids. I think there's going to be a real dry spell in 2021. There's not going to be a whole lot of big games coming out. And then in the fall of 2021, things will start to pick up again. And then you can pick up one of them, okay? And you can get them probably for about half price, 40% off, whatever you want to do on your Black Friday deals or your Boxing Day deals or whatever, right? So that's what I'm going to do. So to me, this is a non-issue. And I'm just going to leave it at that, and I'll take a look at it in 2021.
Hey,
all right. I mean,
sorry.
Yeah,
fun fact. Yes. Your Xbox Series S or X will still work if you don't get this thing.
Yes, that is a proof. Yes, that is a fact.
Yeah. Exactly. So
I mean, listen, obviously you're right. You are spending we're all going to be spending quite a bit of a pretty penny. And, again, if it's not a necessity. It is certainly a luxury item for sure. We also have confirmation from places like Digital Foundry and, of course, Jeff Grubb, who have their hands currently on the Series X, and they've been putting up videos and doing some talking points regarding backwards compatibility only and how quickly it loads. So we do know that you can load a game on and off. So if you have a game on your Series X and you want to take it off, you could put it into the hard drive, and if you want to play it, you can drop that right back on it, and it's loading in literally a quarter of the time. So you can still use some of your ancient hard drives. It's just a matter of you can't play instantly. So again, it's convenience, really, what it comes down to. Tempest Sun, obviously, you, my friend, are getting a Series X, and I'm not sure if you're getting two. I know your wife's a huge gamer. This is a bit of again, $219 for something the size of a quarter. Yes, it does a lot. Yes, you do get your money's worth, but it's not necessary. Are you getting this or not?
Eventually I will, but I'm going to wait. These things are going to go down in price. Not only are they going to go down in price, eventually they're going to have a 1.5 GB, 2 terabyte. They're going to get better. And the whole reason why I thought I had to have one right away, just because I like the convenience of it. But if you see, I forget whose breakdown it was. I wish I could give them credit, but somebody actually did the work, and it went over the speed at which you can transfer something from the HDD, like an external hard drive, to the internal SSD. And for Assassin's Creed Origins, which is like, it's not the biggest game, but it is like 90.
It's a sizable game for sure.
It's massive. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It transferred in 7 minutes. So, with all these enhanced loading times and everything else, just like, I'll go get a drink, I'll go use the bathroom quick while it transfers, and then I'm good to go. So I can swap games as I want it. And you know what? It's worth the hassle. It's honestly worth the hassle, because what I've seen from today, from the embargo being lifted and people being able to show the load times, the performance, and everything else, a lot of people have this mentality of like, why do you want to play old games? That's because your old games are going to play and load like nothing they've ever done before.
Yep.
So it's, worth that. If it's a little bit of a hassle, if it's a 7-minute wait, like for me to try to play Monster Hunter and take that game from the HDD to the SSD, that worth it to me. So it's not something you need, like everybody else is saying. It's purely for convenience. At the end of the day, it's actually not overpriced for what it is. Face it, dudes. This is it's expensive tech, man. And it's it makes me like marvel at how cheap these consoles actually are, and how cheap we're getting them for. Because I think they're actually worth a lot more than what we're getting them for. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point. Clowns, why don't we bring you into the conversation, my brother? But before we do, let me just thank a couple of people. We have Nightwolf3186 drops another outstanding $5, who just says, oh my God, this show is great already. Hit that like button, folks. By the way, I'm all settled into the new home, incoming office /game room pics on Twitter soon. Well, congratulations on your new home, brother. And yes, share those pics. We have a good friend and generous friend of the show, Sin Vendetta, drops an outstanding $5 Super Chat, says, just pre-ordered and paid off my Seagate expandable 1 terabyte cards at GameStop. I don't mind buying it and could always use and enjoy more space. Yeah, see, I'm right there with you, brother. I have two of them. I have one from the Microsoft Store and I have one from Amazon. And, obviously I'm going to get one for the Series S and the Series X as well. And clowns, listen, obviously the Series X $499, the Series S $299. And the memory expansion card, $220. So, I mean, obviously, you start running into the range of another console, but for what you're getting, it's certainly market value versus price, in my opinion. Are you getting one of the expansion pass cards?
I think, unfortunately, with my budget right now, I'm going to have to wait on the expansion card. But I'm not salty or upset in any way whatsoever about the price. I think it's a fair price for the market right now. And this just goes to show all of us gamers out there that they really put, the best technology they could fit in a console to accept these types of devices. So, yeah, unfortunately, I'm just going to have to wait for a price drop. And in the meantime, I'm going to use an external drive and just transfer back and forth. And like Everborn alluded to, it's really the price of convenience, the price of the quality of, how you want to play. And it's not like a necessity right now. And down the line, I'm sure people will trade those things in at GameStop, or they'll slowly come down in price. Maybe even if it's like 2 years in, I'll just keep using my externals with them. But yeah, I mean, I don't see what the outrage is over the price of these things. I think we all expected them to be a little bit pricey. There's a lot of technology that goes into this stuff, and it's on the edge of technology. It's not like, like 3 years old or anything. This is like top of the line technology they're putting there in these consoles, and you're still getting a next gen console at $499 or even at $299. So I'm not upset at all in any way the least.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I agree with you. And I think that if Microsoft would have boxed out the ability to use older HD drives, then that would have been something that people would have had something to complain about, because at that point, you're stuck using these drives and paying the high prices. But they did not do that. They give you the option. You just have to wait a little bit longer. So Cybernox, obviously, we know that you didn't get your hands on an X yet.
Yeah.
All right. And again, obviously the second wave is coming from what we understand. And that second wave is going to be available from what we're hearing at launch, as well as Microsoft confirming that, of course, they're going to have a ton of systems available the day of launch, which is November 10th. But more specifically, is the 1 terabyte card at $220 something that would be in your potentially something you're going to purchase, or is that something you would pass on and pick up later on down the line in a sale?
Yeah, I'll probably pass on it and pick it up later on. I don't think I have the need to utilize that, that extra storage at the moment. Like a little bit kind of like middle age, like Mag mentioned, I only play a handful of games at a time, and it'll be enough for the 1 terabyte storage. In the games I do have, I have 2 4 terabytes externals right now that I use, because I like, if I download a game, I'd rather leave them on the hard drive. It's a lot faster. I don't have gigabyte internet where I am here, so for me to just keep consistently removing these games and having to re-download them it doesn't take a long time, but it takes more time than it would take for you to transfer them from an external hard drive to, let's say, your primary hard drive, which would be the one that comes in the Series X. I just think the price took people back a little bit. I don't think anyone was expecting $220 for this expansion. Yeah, I think we even, I speculated it was going to be around $150, but I do understand that it is a very fast a very fast SSD. If you try to get an external SSD right now, I think the price is
$300 for 2 terabyte.
Right.
Yeah,
it jumps all over
for
the
2
place.
terabyte. Yeah,
it is. Yeah, so later down the go ahead. Sorry, bro.
No, go ahead. Continue.
No, yeah. So I'm in the same camp as some of these guys. To me right now, it's not a preference. I can see myself waiting a little bit until it goes on sale, or kind of they increase the storage size, right? Kind of like what Tempest mentioned. Once they increase that to maybe, let's say a 2 terabyte or something like that, once the price of memory decreases a little bit. Or maybe you pick it up on a sale during Black Friday or something like that. But I have both my externals here. I like to keep my games on there, and then the games that I am playing, I'll just transfer them to my primary drive, like I said, the internal drive, and from there on, I'll just keep my games there and take advantage of them when I can. So yeah, I'll probably just wait a little bit.
All right, no big deal. I mean, obviously, again, it is a bit of an expense and, of course, investment. But like I said,
it's almost the price of a Series X. Come on,
yes, it is. Yeah, it is. So I mean, I'm all about convenience, but I'm also, if you've been following me for a while, know that I'm a peripheral guy. I got no problem spending, $200 on an Elite. I have no problem getting, I've always been a peripheral kind of a dude. I mean, if you ask my brother Neil Mental, I used to drive him crazy with it. I was like, oh, new peripheral, I'll take it. I just like new tech. This is top of the top. And obviously we're getting top of the top consoles, and I want all the bells and whistles along with it. So I'm willing to spend the couple extra bucks to obviously make it easier. Real quick, before we move on to the next topic, let me just catch up on 2 of the super chats that came in. Nico drops an outstanding $2 super chat, and he says this: price in the UK is much, much more for the SSD card. Damn, dude, I'm sorry to hear that. And John B drops an outstanding $2 super chat. Says Xbox sending out consoles. No one's seen PS5. I've been talking about that. The Board Game Renegade, a good friend of the show, drops an outstanding $2 super chat. Says 109 more $2 super chats, and you can afford it.
Hey, boom! Can I add one more point to this?
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Go ahead.
So it's a couple of things. Firstly, I would look for some of these third-party aftermarket SSDs that we know we're going to see sooner or later.
No doubt. Yeah,
and once there's that sort of competition in the market, because what happens is sort of Microsoft sort of blessed Seagate to be the one provider, and just the market dictates like this is the only show in town, so that's going to be the price. And if you want to know how the prices will go, remember in the 360 days when we had those memory slots and those the hard drives that we had to add on, how fast did those go down in price? Because I think
almost immediately. Yeah,
right. And I think we'll see a similar trajectory to those hard drives that were on the those swappable hard drives that were on the 360.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree, and I know there was a lot of people that had a lot of those things. Me, I only had one, and I just bought memory cards, and I did hot swapped.
Yeah.
You know, Kay Asante, a very good friend and generous friend of the show, drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, folks, I don't understand why they're looking at this. It's not a memory card. It's a cutting edge NVMe, and Samsung's PS5 alternative will cost $230. That is a great point. And I absolutely agree. But listen, I want to move on to the next topic, and I think it's a good one. As a matter of fact, as we close in on 500 people already here, only 31 minutes in, folks, I want some record-breaking numbers today if you're enjoying it. And please consider hitting that like button. And if you are new to the program, new to the channel, I say welcome with open arms. And of course, consider subscribing to Double Barrel Gaming. We are 6,000 plus subs strong, and we are trying to hit the next big, obviously milestone, and that is 10K. And when 10K comes, I can start getting some merchandise that I can turn around and potentially bring to the channel. So folks, if you are enjoying the content, hit the like button and subscribe. But let's move on to topic number 2. Now look, in what I call the biggest acquisition in gaming history, the ZeniMax deal is something that took the entire gaming industry by surprise. And well, thanks to numerous interviews with both Satya Nadella, head of Microsoft, and Phil Spencer, head of Xbox, more first-party studios are coming sooner than later. And considering how important Xbox Game Pass is to the platform and the future of Xbox, this is going to be big. Now, listen, folks, I can't disclose anything. All I can say is that I've heard some rumblings, folks. And the rumblings that I have heard are suggesting that the next acquisition, folks, get ready for this, buckle in, because this is a big one, could potentially be bigger than the Bethesda ZeniMax deal. Yes, that's right. I'm saying it, and I'm getting goosebumps because, my God, if true. And the rumblings throughout the interwebs today, both on the 4chan and Reddit forums, are suggesting that the next big announcement is not next week. It is not the week after, folks. It appears that Microsoft, are willing to whip it out, drop it on the table, and have people run for cover, because they're going to do it right before the Series X and S launch this November, potentially coming at the end of October. And I think that would be a big move, because obviously, folks, listen, if you follow the industry like I do and like many people on this panel do, that ZeniMax announcement Monday, 24 hours before the Series X and S became pre-orderable, if you think that was an accident, you are sadly mistaken, and I have a bridge to sell you. But I want to talk about Satya Nadella for a second, who raised some eyebrows in the gaming community. And here is, during a CNET interview, here is what the Microsoft CEO had to say. He says, you can't wake up one day and say, let me build a game studio. The idea of having content is so we can reach larger communities. We'll always look for places where there is more of a commonality of purpose, mission, and culture. We will always look to grow inorganically where it makes sense. And of course, Phil Spencer, who is obviously the head of Xbox and has convinced Satya Nadella to make Xbox a top priority. And obviously, we know that thanks to this purchase, they now have 23 first-party studios. But that's not real. That's not the real story. It's the 35 plus teams within those 23 first-party studios that really make up the difference of how many games they could potentially release each and every year. And I think that at this rate, it is going to be a pretty impressive output of games, especially from some of the bigger studios that they picked up. But here is what Phil Spencer had to say regarding the purchase. He says, content is just the incredible ingredient to our platform that we continue to invest in. This doubles the size of our creative organization. What's very interesting is the interview that he did with GameIndustry.biz on June 10th of 2019, where Phil Spencer talked about acquiring a Japanese studio. And here is the quote from that conversation. He says, I think it'd be nice if we found an Asian studio, in particular, a Japanese studio, to add to our studios. I liked it when we had some first-party capability in Japan. We have a small team there, but I think we can do more. Now, this is obviously, again, this is going to be one of those loaded questions where there's going to be a lot to talk about. But the most interesting part isn't what Phil Spencer had to say. No, that's important. But the interesting part is to hear Satya Nadella, the head of Microsoft, say that they are in the market to purchase more studios. Now, we know that EA, Activision, and Ubisoft are off the table. They are just way too much. They're way too expensive. As a matter of fact, I think they would be 4 or 5 times the $7.5 billion they spent on ZeniMax and Bethesda. So those guys are out. The question is, who could they get next, and could it be potentially bigger than, of course, the ZeniMax deal? I can't even fathom how big of a company that would have to be. But you know what, Everborn, I want to bring you into the conversation. Now, obviously, we know currently that they have, like, for instance, Sony has 15 first-party studios, and they're all fantastic studios. There's no denying the talent that Sony has with their studios. But when you look at what Microsoft has done in one fell swoop, and with the indication and basically confirmation from Satya himself that more studios are coming, this is exciting, especially if you are an Xbox gamer that have been told your brand does not have first-party prowess. What are your thoughts on Satya's comments? And of course, if you'd like to comment on what Phil had to say, we'd like to hear that too.
Oh, I have been waiting to talk about this. Let me tell you. Listen, here's the thing. I think that, firstly, just let's take it in order. Satya, I knew that all of this was coming the day we saw him out there playing baseball with people dressed up like Master Chief, right? That was sending a message, not only to the gaming press, not only to Sony. That was sending a message to the people inside Microsoft that just want to focus on business. That was sending a message to say, I take this seriously. That was a power move right there without saying any words, right? So when Satya says, there are more acquisitions on the table, what you have to understand right now is money is cheap, right? But I know that the world is crazy right now, but if you look at the tech companies that have flourished in this new world we live in, and you look at the market caps that they have raised to, Google Amazon, Apple, they're all trillion-dollar companies.
Yes.
Right? And right now, what is a trillion? And that doesn't mean that, okay, they have, $1.5 trillion in the bank. No, that's a valuation of the company based on what the stock price is trading at. But guess what? Even though the Bethesda deal was done in cash, because I think Microsoft has something like almost $200 billion in cash just sitting away, right? The thing to understand is that stock value, they can buy one of these companies 10 times over if they want it, right? And I know you said that Ubisoft may not happen, but guess what? What is the market cap of Ubisoft? $10 billion.
Yes.
Right?
Give or take, yeah.
EA is a different story. Electronic Art is like 40 billion. So let's take them off the table, right? But I think the next purchase that would wow us is a studio that will sort of show how serious Microsoft is in the Asian market. And that comes to Phil's quote that he would like to have an Asian studio. And so the fan in me says Sega, right? The Sega Genesis was my first video game system. It came with Streets of Rage 2 and Sonic 2. And I can't tell you how many times I've played and beat those games. And my favorite console of all time was the Dreamcast. And maybe I still hold a grudge of Sony, who was the big company that came in and bullied their way into the market and kind of pushed Sega out, right? But that's neither here nor there. So the fan in me says Sega, but the businessman in me says Capcom.
Oh man, dude, I've been a cap. Let me tell you something. It's a funny story about that. When we were growing up, I didn't have a computer, right? Obviously, my family wasn't rich. So I remember a friend of mine, he actually been on my show numerous times. This is when we actually had landlines before cell phones. This is actually way back in the days. I used to call my friend up and said, "Hey, dude, any Capcom news?" Because I was such a Capcom fan. You know what, dude? Capcom has been in the conversation. Could you imagine Resident Evil as a first-party game?
My God.
I can't even fathom it.
But what about Devil May Cry? What about
Street Fighter?
Dragon Dogma.
with how Street Fighter 5 was exclusive. I know we're probably going to talk about exclusives later, but here's the thing. The market cap for Capcom is only $5 billion.
Yes, and they would probably overpay to kind of box someone else out. The same way they did.
You don't pay what the market cap is. I think if it's $5 billion, they'd probably end up paying 8 for it, just because you have to look at what is 10 years of profits.
Yeah,
and they'll pay that up front. But here's the thing. Another thing to think about, which will make a purchase like this more difficult, is there are some rules around foreign investment in a Japanese company. And I know that Microsoft has had offices in Japan for about 2 years, and they're picking up a Japanese studio that has been there for longer with the ZeniMax deal. So maybe they can work something out there. But another thing to think about, the Bethesda purchase, they're looking at more things like a Bethesda because Bethesda was not a publicly traded company. That makes the paperwork and the sort of the red tape a lot lower, a lot less than it would be if you bought a publicly traded company. Not saying it's impossible, but just know that things like that take long. Remember when Disney announced they were acquiring Fox?
It took a year. It took well over 12 months afterwards. Yeah.
And then once you do something like that, then you're going to be negotiating in the public. So I don't know how much Microsoft wants to get into that. So I would keep my eye on companies that aren't publicly traded. Now, so pie in the sky, I say, if you want to claim in the first place that market, meaning Japan, Korea, maybe China, and the West as well, you get Capcom, because that says we have AAA games. They'd get Monster Hunter, not huge here, very huge over there. Yeah. And I hear people saying Konami, but you don't want Konami, and I don't even know if you want Sega because they're in so many other businesses besides gaming. If you look at
Konami, the gyms, they got the pachinko machines. It's a lot of stuff.
Exactly. Stuff in Vegas and the slot machines and things like that. So Konami is just a game company, and I think that makes more sense if they can do it. But now let's think about the things that are closer to reality. I think even with the Bethesda purchase, what they've done is solidified the Xbox as this is if you want to play first person games, this is where you go, hands down. Stop asking questions. Don't even think about it, right? If you want Western RPGs, this is where you go. Don't think about it. But what is the thing that people say that has made Sony so strong? They say it's their first party games, but if you peel that layer back, what they're really saying is third person action adventure, narrative driven, cinematic, over the shoulder games. Do we feel like Xbox truly has that now? And I think if they want that, this is just means kill all narratives. I actually think a studio like Remedy could give that to them.
Yeah.
I think they buy Remedy. You bring back Quantum Break. You bring back Alan Wake. You lock down Control, and I think then they have everything they need except for something like a Capcom. So I say grab Remedy, and if Bungie doesn't want $2 billion, you get them too.
Yeah, I mean the Bungie deal obviously was a public thing where we've heard from not that I've had him on the channel. I'm hoping to get him on eventually. Hoglore basically debunked what the CEO of Bungie said, how he downplayed the potential of being purchased. I still think that deal is ongoing. I don't know if it's going to happen. It would be great to have Bungie back, but Bungie, even if they did come back into the fray of being a Microsoft first party, it's not to help Halo in any way. They're going to continue Destiny, and they are working on a AAA new IP. But you know what? That's a Remedy is I'm going to be honest with you. I've always been a fan of Remedy. I've been a huge fan of their games. Alan Wake absolutely is a game that I would love to see come back, whether you reboot that or you continue after American Nightmare, however you want to do it. What I'm not a big fan about is what they did with Control. That obviously left a real nasty taste in my mouth because of how they were, and again, we can't blame them. It could have been 505 that pushed the envelope on charging you for the next gen version instead of giving it to you like so many others have. But that's actually a very, very good purchase. You want to add something?
Yeah, sorry. But see, here's the thing. That debacle with Control, that immediately goes away if they're a Microsoft studio, because they're not thinking about nickel and diming people. Everything is going to be everywhere. It'll be in Game Pass. It'll be on Steam. It'll be on PC. You can buy it if you want. So all that goes away, and Remedy gets to just tell stories without worrying about the big bad publisher stepping in and making those rules. And I say Remedy, that doesn't negate any of the bigger purchases, but what it does say is, hey, they're not a publicly traded company, and they could be bought on the cheap on top of many other studios. But I just think that is a quiver that they could have, an arrow in the quiver, or however you say that they could have to attack specifically one of the talking points that they're missing, which is those third person narrative over the shoulder games.
Yeah, and you know what you're saying does make a lot of sense. I mean, a lot of people, for me personally, one of the things that attracts me to owning a PlayStation device is exactly that. Those third person, over the shoulder, adult themed, story driven, single player experiences, which is what I love about Sony's box. I don't play any third party stuff there, and second party stuff if I can get it on Xbox, that's where I'm playing. But I will buy a PlayStation 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way through 12 to get those single player experiences, because like some people say, I am a selfish gamer. I like the single player experience. Even though nothing wrong with multiplayer, I do like that about Sony's box. But, middle-aged gamer guy, I want to bring
Yes,
you into
sir.
the conversation because obviously, Phil Spencer has done a lot for the company, but we know that at the end of the day, it is obviously Satya and Nadella that's going to make the big decisions. Of course, Amy Cook, the CFO, is going to be there because she is the money person within Microsoft, and they're going to determine whether or not something is worthy of an investment. Now, listen. They announced 15 million Game Pass subscribers, and I have it on good authority that it's more than that. I can't specifically say it's 18.5. I have no idea, but I know for a fact that it's more, which I believe that as we get closer to the launch of the console, it is likely that we could see it jump towards of 20 million plus subscribers. As a matter of fact, I would even dare say that once the Bethesda / ZeniMax deal was announced, they probably got 1 million new subs potentially that day because people were like, holy shit, all of those games are going to be in Game Pass. And we got the confirmation right after that Doom Eternal, potentially the game of the year, first party title for Xbox moving forward, is now in Game Pass on October 1st. For you, when you hear Satya Nadella, the head of the head of Microsoft, say that they are, not that they will, not that they're considering, not that they might, they are actively going to get other studios for content for their Netflix of gaming service, that they want to be the best of the best. What are your thoughts?
Well, before we all get on the mag train, I have a charming little story here. There's a guy in the chat, Brand the Dawn 33. He was actually standing in front of me in the line at EB Games to pre-order.
Cool, dude. That's cool.
Yeah, to pre-order our Series X, right? And we started talking. I told him about the show and everything else, and I looked down in the chat, and there he is. So, welcome to the show. Welcome to the family.
Nice.
But anyways, let's get into this. I'm not even going to sit here and speculate as to what studios they might be getting or what companies they might be getting or what publishers. I'm going to just look past it because there's something else that's actually been on my mind. And what's been on my mind is why. And there's the obvious answer, money. But that's not the answer. I really don't think. Now, of course, they're going to get more studios. I have a distinct feeling that their next move, just like you were saying, it's going to be a major acquisition is coming. And it's going to be coming very soon. And it's going to be just as big as ZeniMax, if not bigger, just like you were saying, Boom. Now, along the way, I do see them, making smaller announcements, maybe like, you know what I mean? Like a studio here, a studio there. I'm not going to speculate as to what, because of reasons that we might know behind the scenes. Anyhow, the way that they're doing this is they're creating a content juggernaut. Okay, Netflix did this. Disney did it for their respective services. Why wouldn't Microsoft? You would have the three big pillars of entertainment and are going to be there, and it's going to be ready. Like, look at, you take Netflix, Disney Plus, Game Pass. You can almost say them in the same breath. And I bet you in about a year from now, 2 years from now, you will be saying them in the same breath because it's going to be just as popular. Maybe not 100 million subscribers, but who knows? We don't know. We don't know what the future is going to have for us. But those are household names. Now, there's an angle to all this that I think a lot of people don't see or don't seem to understand as to why Microsoft is doing what they're doing. And this is what's been keeping me up at night. I've been thinking about this. Remember this word, why, not what. Why are they doing this? Here's the angle. You remember well over a year ago, Phil kind of, sort of, indirectly said that Sony is not their competition?
Right.
He meant every word of it.
Oh, he absolutely did.
Yeah. But a lot of people poo-pooed it because they weren't paying attention. But here's the thing. He's been eyeballing Amazon and Google, like we all know. But it's not just because they're competition. No, it's not. It's not that. At least not all of it anyway. I mean, Phil Spencer obviously wants to make a boatload of money for the division. That much is clear. But what if, now stay with me here, that might sound a little bit crazy, he's trying to preserve the entire gaming industry as we know it. I know, sound a little crazy, maybe a little melodramatic, but hear me out. Amazon and Google, they have the cash and the credit to buy ZeniMax and any other major gaming platform, studios, publishers for their streaming platforms. And those companies would sell to them with no issue. I mean, they got the money, they'll take the money. However, Stadia and Luna are not established gaming companies. I foresee, and I think Phil foresees, that if Amazon and Google get their hands on those studios and it doesn't work out, they would dissolve them. They would send them packing or keep a couple of the good boys here and there, move them to another division, that kind of thing. But those brilliant games, the franchises, okay, the great work environments, creative work environments, they would be lost forever. And that would be an absolute shame.
Travesty of justice, one could say.
Exactly.
Mag, why do you think that acquisition with Bethesda was so high? You don't think there was betting?
They were there. Amazon and Google were there bidding too.
Of
Okay.
course.
Now let me put this in another perspective with an example, a quick example. I've been a 24-year executive chef. About 18 years ago, I had a crew of guys, and we had the best fine dining Italian restaurant in town. And for 7 years, we made magic in that kitchen. We won awards. We were on TV. I did several TV appearances. But then one day, everyone started going their own way, and the chemistry changed. The food changed. Still great, but it wasn't the same. It lost that magic. It became a shell of its former glory, so to speak. And then one day, it was lost forever. Now, let's bring it back to ZeniMax, Bethesda, Amazon, and Google would absorb those studios, and then, just like that restaurant, they would become shells of their former selves. Now, in comes Phil. He's preserving these studios and games. He's openly said, about a week ago, he wants them to operate as they were.
He said his exact word, what are you going to change? We're not changing anything.
Right. So doesn't that open your eyes to what I just said? Maybe he was doing it to preserve, these franchises, these studios, these creative minds. It tips me off that those were his thoughts. His thoughts are my thoughts. And because at the end of the day, you got to understand that Phil Spencer is not only the boss, he's also a developer. He is a businessman, but at his heart, just like the rest of us, he's still a gamer.
Indeed. Well, listen, there is no doubt that Phil Spencer makes these decisions from multiple parts of his brain. And you really painted a nice picture of Phil. I mean, my God, you should send it to him because I think he would probably really dig it. But at his core, this is a dude that tells stories about him and his daughter playing Voodoo Vince. You ever hear those stories? They're not only are they important to him, he cherishes them, but the fact that he shares them with the community just goes to show you what kind of a guy Phil Spencer is. And look. We have to call a spade a spade. They took it on the chin for 7 long years. And they are finally they got out of under the thumb of the industry. And you know who I'm talking about. I'm not just talking about the hack content creation community that, changes with every fart of the wind. When Sony is good, they jump on that bandwagon. Sony sucks, they go back to Microsoft. Well, we don't want you over here, so stay over there where they suck. What can I tell you? But I can say they're investing, and I love the comment from Phil. We did this to show the Xbox community our commitment in the platform. Do you understand what that means? Do you understand that pre E3 2018, they had 7 studios making games, first-party games? Post E3 2018, they are at 23. Do you understand that kind of turnaround has never before been done? In the history of gaming, have we ever seen anything quite substantial? I want to go to, of course, our very good friend, Tempest Son. Now, obviously, Everborn brought up Capcom, and immediately your juices started flowing because you're a huge Capcom fan, just like myself. Now, I don't know if Capcom is on the table. I don't know who the heck it's going to be. I can tell you that from the rumblings, and I don't have a lot of big connections, folks. I just don't, but I do have a few. And the few that I have are all starting to talk about the next deal, folks, being bigger than Bethesda. Now, I don't know who that could possibly be. I have no inklings. But I can tell you that if they are planning what I think they're planning, and you can just look at the timeline of what the industry is talking about. Listen, we understand that the PlayStation 5 is launching 2 days after the Series X, but you want to know something? Do you see anyone talking about Sony? No. And for good reason, because they're not a part of the conversation. They're not even an afterthought. And their console launches 2 days after the Xbox Series X and S. And why is that? Because Microsoft is hitting on every switch. For you, when you hear Satya Nadella say that we are actively going to add studios, what are your thoughts on the commitment? Could we see 30 first-party studios by the end of 2021?
Well, if this week's acquisition proved anything, I do think there may be a couple things that are off the table, like EA as a whole. I mean, and I also think Take-Two. I think they're in another level as well. I do even think something like an Ubisoft is actually possible for sure.
Well, they've already said they don't want to be acquired. Like they're very forward about that. So
that's true. I mean, you've ever heard of a hostile takeover, though? I don't know if it works that way, but if you give them enough money, they might do anything. But that's not even who I would want, as much as I love some of their franchises. When you say big, it can be big as in just the sheer size of the acquisition, or it can be big as in what it means for the industry. I do feel like if you were to go to any of the big publishers in Japan, Capcom, Sega, Square Enix, I mean, if you actually look at what Square Enix worth, I think they could acquire them for maybe even less than what they did for Bethesda. But if you were to do any of those, what does that mean for the industry? That means instantly you just have to look at things differently. The Asian market would have to look at things differently if it was any one of those studios. The one I think that would have the least amount of impact is probably Sega, even though that might be the one that's most likely now because of the friendship and everything like that they have going on. But when he said Capcom, I've been thinking that. I've actually for years been wanting that to happen for a few reasons, especially now with the RE engine. I mean, look how versatile and amazing that engine is. That would be Microsoft's engine. I mean, those things are assets. Those things are good to have. But the IP, the amount of amazing characters.
Dude, the IP that they own is ridiculous, dude.
Oh, the fighting division, the Capcom fighting division. I mean, there's all your fighting games. There's Killer Instinct cross Street Fighter, Killer Instinct cross whatever. I mean, think about it for a second. All the Street Fighter characters. They have Mega Man. I mean, come on. Mega Man, like the amount of IP and just big characters is through the roof. I think even more so than Square Enix. Yeah, Square Enix, yeah, you have the Final Fantasy franchise and stuff like that. That's undoubtedly important. But Capcom to me is like, that's just another level. I mean, boom, could you imagine a new Onimusha? Because somebody wanted it.
And it's funny you say that. And again, this goes right back to what Everborn said. You take a game like Onimusha, right? Mm-hmm. That is a stylized, over-the-shoulder, third-person, action, story-driven, narrative type of title that it would be something that is missing from the Microsoft repertoire, right? I mean, again, you can even take, for instance, a new Resident Evil that's not the first person for Resident Evil Village. And you turn around and you bring back, Resident Evil Code Veronica redone for the Xbox only.
Dino Crisis. Like, I just gave myself goosebumps just by saying the name of that title. Like, could you imagine a new one? Like, I just can't even. And the thing is money's not an issue once you get purchased by Microsoft. So anything that these guys want to make, they could make.
They have the freedom to make it. That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And
hey, Tempest, can I just add one more thing to your point?
Yeah.
The other thing to think about is what Bethesda does is basically locks down the Western market. But where is Microsoft or Xbox really lacking is the global market. And a company like Capcom that grabs the global market in a way that I think Xbox never would. That is, everyone stop what you're doing. You may not be into Western games, but if everyone's into Street Fighter, everyone's into Resident Evil, everyone's into everyone that's not in the Western market is into Monster Hunter. It's huge, right? So that is a thing that bolsters them in the global market, which is what they need to make Game Pass become what it needs to do, which is rival Microsoft Office in terms of monthly subscribers. They need to attack the global market, and that does it. I think the addressable market, not in 1-2 years from now, but I think the addressable market for Game Pass is 100 to 150 million. That's how many people they have right now paying for Office 365. That's how many people are subscribed to Netflix. And you need to make a statement in the same way that Bethesda made a statement to the Western market. You have to make a statement to the global market, and I think no company that they could purchase does that like Capcom. And think of the output, right? This is why some people say CD Projekt Red, but I don't know if CD Projekt Red really fits into what Game Pass is trying to do, because they release a game every 5 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
There's
you're right.
sub studios and divisions within Capcom that maybe this year it's Street Fighter, and then next year it's Devil May Cry 13, right? And then Monster Hunter. So it that's the kind of thing that does it. Capcom is, I know there's other people over there, but that would be on the level, if not bigger, than a Bethesda purchase to the West.
If I may, just because this was one of my favorite questions you've ever asked me, Boom. I'm really passionate about this. I love the thought of this so much. In closing, the other thing I love about Capcom is almost what I feel like Xbox Game Studios is, a just very wide, diverse lineup of games. Back in the 90s, they had a couple genres that they kind of stuck with, but now the sky's the limit as far as that studio. They will put any kind of game out. And like one of the biggest hidden gems to me ever that a lot of people didn't play is Dragon's Dogma. That is like
that's a very popular game, dude.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal game. I love that thing. Just the thought of maybe having a new one, just like I'm like, oh my god. Now, I mean, Microsoft might be getting those games regardless, but just I don't know. The wide variety is just amazing. And in closing, I've literally thought about this for years. I always thought to myself, well, man, what if they just got Capcom? Because I guess sitting here saying it now, Capcom by far has to be my favorite publisher. It has to be
right up there. Yeah,
it has to be. I mean, I've put you can check my gamer tag. I think it's like 539 hours or something like that in Monster Hunter World, and I'm not done yet.
Wow.
That I've played like every Resident Evil game. They're by far some of my favorite games out there. I used to be a fighting game junkie, and Street Fighter, Marvel vs. Capcom, all those games, that was like my jam, dude. So Capcom has always been like top dog for me. So make it happen, Phil, please.
It definitely could happen for sure. Clowns, before I get to you, brother, let me catch up some super chats. We have Nightwolf 3186 shows his generosity once again with another $5 super chat. Says Xbox buys the license for Sam Fisher and Splinter Cell. LOL. I don't know. Shots in the dark. All seriousness, if it's Capcom, wow. Next gen Onimusha, indeed. I wish they would just actually pay for the marketing and the development cost of a new Sam Fisher. Just get it done. Nightwolf drops another outstanding $2 super chat. Says Ghost of Tsushima versus Open World Onimusha. Wow. That would be dope. No doubt about that. Let's see who else do we have here. We have another one coming in from Hypenize, drops an outstanding $5 super chat. Says, will Sony have any consoles to sell on release date? Listen, King David, good friend of mine, brother of mine, he honestly believes that a delay for the PlayStation 5 is coming. I don't necessarily know where he's getting it from. He's got his gut feeling, but isn't it odd? And this is a topic for another day. Isn't it odd that the PlayStation 5 has yet to go out to anybody? They don't have the kiosks set up anywhere, but seems like Microsoft sent out early Series X and S's when they were just looking. Hey, this is a box. Just take a look at the size. Then they sent out units for people to try out. Jeff Grubb was playing with it all weekend. Digital Foundry just did their breakdown. but no PS5s. It's a little odd. I got to be honest with you. We have a new channel member. Holy matrimony. We have Spray On. Thanks so much for becoming a channel member, dude. Super appreciate that. We also have Nelson Nieves drops a $2 super chat and says, respect, but Capcom not bigger than Bethesda. I don't know about that. I think that they could logistically give each other a run for its money, but clowns. When you hear Satya Nadella basically he's basically saying that big announcements are coming, that we are actively going out to buy other studios. Now, of course, we can look at some of the small ones, right? You can say Techland, right? That'd be a good one. Upsobo, look what they did with both of those games, right? They had an action over the shoulder kind of a Sony-esque game, and it was amazing, low budget. And of course, look what they've done with Flight Simulator. I mean, obviously it's sitting at a 92 meta for a reason. You know, People Can Fly, another fantastic developer. But when you hear the rumors, the rumblings, clowns, of it's going to be bigger than Bethesda, what are your thoughts on the investment that you have made in Xbox?
See, this is a tough one for me because bigger than ZeniMax is really hard to think about. The only studios I think that are bigger than ZeniMax would be like a Ubisoft or an EA or an Activision. I really don't think there's others on that kind of level. Now, I will say this, though. When they were talking about buying studios and all the teases from Sega, Sonic around like green milkshakes or whatever they were, and then Sonic by the original Xbox, and then when Xbox said, no, we're not announcing any acquisitions of the Tokyo Game Show, they never said they're not purchasing Sega. They just said they're not announcing any acquisitions. So here's what I think. I think that Sega makes the best bet. I talked to somebody about Capcom, and they told me that Capcom actually carries a burn debt ratio. So I don't know about that. I'm not into their books, but apparently Capcom has some sort of debt, which would make them actually a cheaper evaluation for Microsoft to buy if they paid off the debt. Konami, I don't think really has a lot of stuff anymore out there that's super popular these days. I think their days are in the past and kind of numbered, to be honest with you. And obviously Kojima's never one to really want to go with Microsoft. That would be a real, that would upset Keeley very much if Kojima went to Microsoft. He'd be crying at the next.
He would probably be crying for sure.
Yeah, he would be. Give him some tissues. But I think this is what I think, right? I honestly believe that Phil and Satya want Sega. And the reason why I say this is because Sega is highly established in the Asian markets and other markets across seas. Not only do they have, like the franchises like Sonic and the other stuff that they produced recently, but they have Atlas, right? Atlas is huge for JRPGs. I mean, that spawns decades of JRPGs. And if they can get a company like Sega and tag it along with Atlas on there, that would open up their markets tremendously to Asia and Europe, because those JRPGs are super popular. You're talking about like Persona. You're talking about oh man, I can't even think. I have so many on my Vita that was done by Atlas as well. But there's just it's a huge grab, and I don't think Sega's value is as high as some of these other companies. However, that Atlas would be so valuable to Microsoft, because one of the reasons why people tout Sony over Microsoft is because of JRPGs. So imagine if big bad Microsoft comes in, right? And they're so tired of getting pushed around, Sony buying exclusives. Phil and Satya work a deal out with Sega, get Atlas, and be like, this is the last Yakuza that's going to go on Sony. All the other future ones, exclusive to Microsoft. I mean, imagine if they did something like that. How huge would that be? And how many people that were Sony fanboys would all of a sudden go out and buy into Game Pass or play Game Pass on PC or get an Xbox just because of Atlas and Sega being locked down to Microsoft? I mean, that would be a game changer right there. And that would show Sony, listen, stop buying up all this exclusive stuff. Let's start playing nice. So that's my thought. I really think it is going to be Sega. I have my heart set on that. I will cry if it doesn't happen. But on top of that, I'm also going to say this, right? I know that we alluded to this a little bit about how, it's no longer like a console versus console situation. Like Microsoft is not in competition with Sony at this point. And that's very true. I think Sony's market cap is like 92 million and Microsoft is $1 trillion company and they back up Xbox. So Xbox is looking at the long haul, right? They're looking at the threats from Amazon Luna. They're looking at the threats from Google Stadia. Because even if Stadia does fail, Google will probably come up with something else or some other partnership. They got the money to do it. They can afford failure. I mean, they're $1 trillion company, so it's not going to hurt them if one of their projects fails. At the end of the day, what Microsoft and Xbox is going to be worried about is they don't want Amazon or Google buying up all these studios that are fantastic AAA studios or AA studios and then holding those games hostage from the Xbox ecosystem. So Xbox wants to go out there, get these studios now, buy them now before that cloud generation fully evolves into what it's going to be. And they want to hold all these studios under the Xbox Game Studios umbrella because then that way the Xbox ecosystem will always have something. And, Phil I would say he's a nicer CEO than most guys out there because he is a gamer at heart. And he's not the type of guy to lock everything as exclusive like some people at Sony would do. So I think that if Microsoft keeps acquiring all these studios, at one point in the future, Amazon, Google, even PlayStation's going to have to come to Microsoft. Even Nintendo's going to have to come to Microsoft and be like, hey, Mr. Uncle Phil, you bought like 90% of all third-party studios. We have no content on our systems except for first-party games. Could you please share a little bit with us?
And I don't think they would. I'm going to be honest with you, clowns. I don't think they would.
Here's what I think would happen. I think that Phil and Satya would turn around and say, you got the money? Show me the money. And they'll label Xbox Game Studios all over, just like they do Minecraft and all the other future stuff that's going to come. I think right now they might hold some exclusives from Bethesda, but I think down the road, 10 years from now, if Microsoft is gobbled up maybe 80%, 90% of the market, they're going to be willing to share if the money is right. The money's going to have to be right, though.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. The investment is not something. They're not looking for a quick cash grab. That's why the next Doom isn't going to show up on the PlayStation 5. They're looking to build for the future, and the future for them is Game Pass. And I think that again, console sales are not going to be even remotely as important especially for Microsoft moving forward. See, Sony has an old way of thinking, but Microsoft is thinking about the people that actually use devices and where they're going to use those devices for Microsoft. They're going to use it on their boxes, the Series X and Series X and confirmed hardware in the future. But that's not what they're worried about. They're going to look at how many people are actively using their servers and using Game Pass across tablets and PC and TVs and phones. And I think that when you can have 150 million install base that are paying $10, $15, $20 a month for your subscription, dude, having it on Sony, having it on Stadia or even Amazon, it's going to be an irrelevant conversation because they don't need them. They don't need them. And I hope that listen again. I know maybe I'm sounding like a little bit of a bitch here, but I hope that they don't give Sony shit. I hope that every goddamn first party title that a company that they get, they lock behind the paywall, because if it was Sony would do the same exact thing, and they have
boom. I got to add one more thing to this, right?
Sure.
So besides Atlas being a huge grab for Microsoft, there's another studio that's a Japanese studio that would be a pretty big grab because they have a very popular franchise, especially with more people this generation. It is the modern day Pokemon. I mean, not as popular as Pokemon, but it's a modern day Pokemon. Would be Yokai Watch, and that would be level 7. If they somehow grab level 7 as well, because those things sold like hotcakes on the 3DS, and they're gonna sell like hotcakes when they come out to the Switch as well. If Xbox was to pick up level 7 as a small little studio alongside of Sega and Atlas, I mean, it would be game over. They would have the best JRPG producers out there.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a great point. You know, obviously, first of all, we have to welcome to the program for Gaming Forte. What's up, dude? Welcome back, bro.
Yeah, man. Today is a long day.
Yeah, well, listen, we're gonna get you in a hot second. You actually happen to come in at the nick of time. We're ending this conversation in a moment after we get obviously Cybernox's opinion on this, and we'll get yours, and then we're gonna move to the real crux of the conversation. Cybernox, when you hear Satya and Nadella talk about new studios incoming, when we start hearing rumblings that it's going to be potentially bigger than Bethesda, your investment into Xbox, it has been proven to be well worth your time and money, especially the effort that it takes to obviously support a brand. Now, obviously, we know that you're a multi-plat, a multi-console owner, like most of us here. But so what Sony hasn't done, at least yet, is make a big splash in an investment. Now, granted, no one's taking away the Insomniac. I would dare say that I think Insomniac might be their best studio, but it's nothing compared to Bethesda. When you hear that more studios are coming soon, what are your thoughts on Satya Nadella's comments?
Well, it just goes to show you the commitment that they actually have to the Xbox division now, right? Phil literally has the backing of Satya, and they're willing to do everything to make sure that they are successful. Now, like Max alluded to earlier, I also believe that this is something that they foresaw a couple of years ago, and they've been planning for this moment. Not only do I think Microsoft will acquire other studios, I also probably Sony will have to acquire some, because all we've done here, or all of gaming has done now at this point in time, is literally awaken two sleeping giants that just been kind of dormant on this whole gaming thing, and now they're getting a taste of success. Not to say that State is successful, but they see the potential, right? Amazon, I don't think there's a coincidence there that Luna, Amazon streaming service, was announced like the next day, after Microsoft made that big announcement about Bethesda. And like I mentioned earlier when Max was speaking, I think the price went so high for $7.5 billion, not just because, obviously they got all of the IPs, all of the technology and everything else, but because there was probably a bidding war going on behind the scenes. We mentioned earlier, Amazon and Google have deep pockets. Okay. These guys can literally buy any studio, anyone they want. And I think, kind of like what Mag mentioned, Phil foresaw this, and then they want to kind of, keep this gaming ecosystem to as how would I say, to as normal as we're used to as possible, right? We don't want to see a bunch of services. Like, can you imagine if one of these studios would or one of these other big tech, one of these other two companies would have gotten Bethesda, and you can only play it on Stadia or on through Amazon? I think it would kind of start shifting the way we look at gaming a little bit more different. Besides that, I think it makes perfect sense that they do acquire a new studio. What studio that may be, I don't know. I kind of agree with Capcom, but I'm honestly, at this point, who knows? I'm honestly, I have no idea. It's something that has to fit into that Game Pass idea that it's been successful for them. So to this day, they're up to 15 million plus users. So that number is just going to keep increasing, and the more announcements they make, the more preservations they make to gaming. Backwards compatibility is an extreme thing that I don't think they get enough credit for. A lot of people talking about, I can't play my old, or who wants to play old games, and who wants to do this and who wants that. But the game preservation that Microsoft has given you in the ability for you to play it anywhere is tremendous. But going forward, I think that vision of having a AAA game every 3 months on their service it's becoming a reality now in everyone's eyes. So Capcom, Sega, maybe it'll be a surprise studio. But yeah, man, this Satya Nadella's tweet and his conversations and everything in regards to the Xbox division just goes to show you that their commitment to Xbox is real, and you can probably expect some big surprises in the near future.
Yeah, absolutely, no doubt about that. Forte, do you want to jump in on this particular topic, or do you want to wait for the bigger one to jump in?
Oh, well, I missed most. So what was the question?
Well, this is regarding the comments from Satya Nadella discussing that they are actively going to, not suggesting that they might be looking into it or that it's a possibility. They are actively looking to add more additional studios to the 23. What are your thoughts on the commitment that Microsoft is showing their fan base?
This is what everybody wanted Microsoft to do for the entire generation. They wanted to see an aggressive Microsoft. We wanted to see a Microsoft that was willing to show that they were 100% in on gaming, and that is something that they have done. For most of us that's been paying attention, this is something that we kind of known for a while, ever since Phil Spencer was elevated to the VP role and put on the board. It kind of right then told you that Microsoft was kind of paying a lot of attention to what gaming was going on. And people just wanted to kind of ignore that. The fact of the matter is Game Pass is the future of what Microsoft wants it to be. And in order to make that service as profitable and as good as it can possibly be, you have to have developers and you have to have games consistently in that program. So they have 23 as of right now.
Yes,
they technically have enough right now to have 3 years worth of development for each studio and be able to release a game every quarter if they wanted to.
Right.
And I would tell you, with them having a lot of these, Western RPGs that they can actually build on, that is enough right there to kind of keep somebody in the ecosystem. Like literally 1 month you can release something as big as Elder Scrolls, and then the next month you can release something as big as Fallout. Or not even the next month, the next quarter it could be Fallout. Guess what? Over the course of that 3 months, people are going to be stuck in that ecosystem because, hey, you might not be finished playing that game. You might be still playing other games on top of it. And it's just a really, really good thing. And the fact that Satya came out and actually doubled down on this, he literally took Phil Spencer's initial tweet and retweeted it, and then went out and actually doubled down on it in an interview himself. So this just lets you know that they're not playing when it comes to this type of stuff. And I think a lot of people forget. I was watching a lot of people's responses and a lot of reactions to what happened when Microsoft did make the acquisition. And when people keep forgetting, like, Microsoft is the sleeping giant that a lot of people just didn't realize what they were. They kind of just been meddling through the generation, fixing little things that they need to fix here, like the platform, Xbox Live, having to fix the software issue and stuff is what they're doing now. And now they committed by saying, hey, remember when everybody kept saying that buying these publishers like EA and Ubisoft and Square Enix, remember when y'all said that stuff was kind of impossible? Nobody's going to spend that type of money to buy something. Then you see $7.5 billion dropped on the table.
Cash.
And they just in cash. That's another thing. Even though they did it in cash, they literally took 1%, less than 1% of their market value, and said, "Here, hold this." And I think that is very significant because this is the first time we've seen Microsoft and Xbox, not even Xbox, just Microsoft flex. There's like, listen, we're going. This is what we can do. And when people keep saying, well, y'all keep saying they're not in this console battle with Sony. Well, they never really have been. Yeah, they still sell systems. They still fight for the same consumer base. But let's be for real. This was about, how are we going to get as many people into a service as possible? How are we going to get our infrastructure up and running before Google and Amazon do it? And this was like the perfect storm for them in their wheelhouse. So I think this is just the beginning. I think another 1 or 2 studios can be purchased offside of this. I don't think they'll probably go after another publisher. Sega would be interesting because Atlas is kings, and I can only imagine what would happen if Persona and all of those games were not exclusive technically to PlayStation anymore, because that's pretty much where they only go. But that's kind of pie in the sky for me. But then again, no one would have thought Bethesda would have happened either. So this kind of just opens up a whole nother idea of what can happen with Xbox going forward. But I do think studios will happen, and we probably will hear something else before the end of this year.
Oh, we're hearing the end.
Can I piggyback off something real quick?
Sure.
Yeah.
I think they will also make a lot, make probably an announcement for Game Pass as well. If I were, if I were to get my way, I would probably think that Ubisoft Plus or what's their Uplay Plus could potentially, like, if you think about it, EA allowed their EA Play to go onto Game Pass, and I don't think that was I don't think they had to write a substantial amount of money for that. I think EA probably doesn't see the numbers that Xbox sees and as an active users during that service. So why not license your service out and you get a cut of how many downloads, whatever that may be. Ubisoft could potentially see something like that too, throw their service on there too, and that's just gonna keep Game Pass growing and growing and growing. And now with xCloud being able to play a Game Pass almost literally anywhere, it's gonna be interesting, man.
It certainly is.
Hey, can I jump in for 1 second?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Go ahead.
First of all, Forte, what up? It's nice to be out here live with you. I've been a subscriber for a long time. So,
Born, man, how you doing, man? I know I see you in the comment section.
What's happening? So, and I think you're gonna win that bet with slow mo that Xbox is gonna do more than PlayStation by the end of the year, even if it's a supply constraint thing. But I think you got that bet in the bag. Anyway.
That's what I'm talking about, man. I'm about to retweet this to slow-mo.
One thing that I wanted to say is, I see the talk starting now, like, big $1 trillion company. What is this going to do? Monopoly talk. I'm telling you right now, you don't want Google or Amazon buying these gaming studios. Microsoft has a 20, even before that, because Microsoft has been in the PC gaming before they got into console gaming. Microsoft has a deep rooted history in gaming, and if you want to get an idea and be scared for when these real streaming wars come, just visit a website called killedbygoogle.com. I'm not even joking. Killed by Google. They will create a service, try it out for a year or two. Oh, this isn't working. Shut the whole shit down. Doesn't matter if they bought it. Doesn't matter if it doesn't matter what history they have. They've done it time and time again in their history. So I'm not saying like, oh, we should cap for a big $1 trillion company, but at the end of the day, if somebody's gonna get it, the home is Microsoft, I think, anyway.
Yeah, no, I absolutely would agree with that. Real quick, what I want to do is I just want to catch up on some of the super chats, and we're going to get into the real spicy part of the show. And I can expect that the podcast could potentially run a little bit further than normal because this is a big one. First of all, Clapper Dan drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, got to also keep in mind that Amazon/Google are cloud-only platforms, so them buying anyone pretty much removes them from the physical/digital space. That's a great point. We also have another $5 super chat that came in from Tommy Hatcher. Thank you, Tommy, for being here. He says this. There will be very few PS5s this year. Stores will have only a few Black Friday ones. This chat. Hold on just a second. Let me just try and bring up Tommy's comments real quick. Hold on, Tommy. He says, and a small restock before Christmas. Xbox about the same. Very few Series X's. Yeah, it's going to be tough. COVID's going to play a major role in these consoles. Pixelbit G, a good friend and generous friend of the show, drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, Sega also has Creative Assembly, maker of Halo Wars 2 and the Total War franchise. They're not just Japan, but lots of PC hits, and can take KI. We got to get a new KI, man. The board game Renegade drops a $5 additional super chat and says, remember too, Sega has Sonic, which is a franchise within itself. Toys, socks, lunchboxes, etc. Sonic is one of the most known characters in gaming. Yeah, he is right up there with Mario for sure. Kirby Louise, who we had on last week's Xbox Factor Podcast drops an outstanding and very generous $10 super chat. Says, you know what's funny? The only two streaming services that won't fail are Xbox and GeForce. The only two that are streaming on top of local play. Funny how that works. That's very interesting. We have Black Ronin 357 drops a very generous $5 super chat. Says, don't give Sony shit. Talk to them. I think Sony deserves some of the shit that they got coming their way because they've been arrogant almost the entire generation, and I think they still are. We have Mariano Pampa, a good friend of the show, drops a very generous $5 super chat. Says, all I keep thinking is how epic the ZeniMax acquisition would have been at E3. Oh God, yeah, that'd have been something else. Boom, awesome show, panel, always fantastic. Hit that like button, everyone. Well, thank you, Mariano. Certainly appreciate that. Listen, folks, get ready to be entertained because this is where I think we're all going to get real spicy. We're all going to have really big opinions. Now, look, as someone who loves being a part of the gaming community and one who obviously, like many on this panel, as well as in the chat, produce weekly content, we see how trends and talking points are used to sell magazines, and though in this case, clicks. And the IGNs, and the GameSpots, and the Kotakus, and so many others have made a mint degrading the Xbox brand and pushing the hate rhetoric with eye-catching narratives. Now, one such narrative has been, of course, Xbox has no games. But one of the bigger ones, one of the bigger tropes is, why should I own an Xbox? I'll just play on PC. Now, to some extent, the first-party output from Microsoft early on the Xbox One was anemic, depending on who you ask. Though, of course, that argument is completely moot. But with that said, no one ever said Sony buying Insomniac and locking Spider-Man, the face of Marvel, behind a plastic box was anti-consumer or wrong for the industry or, of course, unfair for gamers. Sony found a way, and this is where it gets really into the weeds here, to completely take Spider-Man, the face of Marvel Comics, literally the face of the MCU, and from a third-party multi-plat game, lock that character behind the PlayStation 4/PlayStation 5. So you must be wondering, where the hell is Boom going down this freaking road? Well, hold on just a second. I'm gonna bring us back and explain why I've decided to bring this up. Now, look, the mainstream media, when the announcement of Spider-Man being locked behind a piece of plastic, what did they do? They cheered. What did the PlayStation community do? They laughed. They relished. And one of the biggest comments that I saw that was actually even told to me is, hey, Boom, don't buy it for the Xbox because you can't play Spider-Man. The best place to play is the PlayStation 4/PlayStation 5. That's the only place you can play as Spider-Man. So now this is where we get into where the fuck was Boom going? Okay. Well, after the monster ZeniMax Bethesda purchase, we are now hearing from the same industry people. And I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus because I'm not looking for a war, but you know who I'm talking about. As a matter of fact, they got so much shit for this that several of these high-profile, community people, not just our community, but the gaming journalist community, removed their tweets. And what did they say about Microsoft? Well, they called Microsoft anti-consumer. They called for Fallout, Elder Scrolls, Doom, Wolfenstein, and so many others to remain a multi-plat. Some even dared say that this was bad for the industry. So you know what I say, folks? You know what I call? I call bullshit. And this is why. Apparently, what is good for the goose is not good for the gander. And I'm very interested to hear how the same gaming media / gamers on social media changed their tune very quickly when Microsoft are now the owners of Doom. The next Elder Scrolls, not on a PlayStation 5 as long as Phil's running the company. The next Fallout Well, Fallout 76 Part 2, because it's a service game, well, yeah, you can play that one, PlayStation people, but you cannot play Fallout 5, Fallout 6, Elder Scrolls 6. Sorry, pal, you're not getting it. Doom Eternal Part 17. Well, sorry, you're not getting that either. And I think that this is exactly what they have been saying. And Forte, I want to go to you first on this because you said something right as you came into the program. Isn't this what those fine folks, the gems of the community, right? The toxic motherfuckers, right? All that they did was shove in the face of the Xbox community. You have no games. You got no first-party games. And why should I own an Xbox when I can play on PC? Well, now that all of these games are going to be locked behind the Xbox brand, can't that, I think we can use that terminology. Well, if you don't want to buy an Xbox, I hear you. Go play on your $3,000 rig. Oh, but you don't want to do that. You want to play on your PlayStation. Well, again, it's one of those things, what's good for the goose, not good for the gander. What are your thoughts on this? Especially, and again, not so much the community that we roll in, because everyone is flip-floppers, right? We know who the flip-floppers are. But it's the gaming media that actually has me so vexed, because they have been calling for Microsoft to make big moves. When they finally make the big moves, some of the bigger personalities actually challenged it, said this was unfair, this was bad for gaming. What are your thoughts on this, Gaming Forte?
Man, let's see. So I'm gonna go back to the old thing that I always been saying in their video. It's like it really doesn't affect me because I don't care about what anybody else thinks and what their opinion is, but I do understand why a lot of people feel a little vexed by this situation, because they are the games media. They are the ones that actually go out and have a huge influence over a lot of what other people see and say when it comes in the industry. So the biggest thing I always try to tell people is these people are fans just like everybody else. They're, and in some sense, they're zealous like a lot of people in this community, even though we're trying to separate them outside of it. They do have preferences. We may not like that they have preferences because we feel like you need to be unbiased and everything when it comes to your opinion on the different pieces of hardware or plastic that you like to promote. But that's definitely a thing. But that has definitely just became a huge topic of controversy, just because of, especially with all this information about Xbox buying, Bethesda. You got the teardowns and the teardowns happening of the system. You got people talking about the gameplay of the system, and they're not showing any new games. A lot of people are trying to compare what Xbox is doing to PlayStation when this has nothing to do with PlayStation, and that's when you really know it's about what they feel like they're missing versus what they're actually getting for the platform that they like. I find it as therapeutic, honestly, because a lot of these people are literally getting what they deserve. Sony hasn't said anything to them to the extent of even what the system looks like in human form. Like, I have not seen this system literally sitting in front of me yet. I see renders of this system. I see the controller sitting on Travis Scott's his lap. That's about it. But the
only time we saw anything was from the factory floor where they had the three gentlemen actually holding it. But that's it.
That's it. So I think a lot of this information, it stems from the fact that there's no information being shared around the system itself. I mean, for God's sakes, we don't even know what the hard drive size of the digital system is, because it still says to be determined. So, of course, when information does come out, then it will become all about PlayStation, and that's when you hear a lot of the loudest people in the journalist community speak the loudest about it. And that's where the kind of the bias comes in. That it's like, as soon as PlayStation says good news and stuff that they like, it's super. It's all about PlayStation. It's not about Xbox. It's about what PlayStation is doing great and why you should jump into the ecosystem. But then when it's Xbox, they do the opposite. They talk about, oh, this is great that Xbox is doing this, but PlayStation is doing this. And that's the thing that I think kind of rubs people the wrong way. They can't talk about the good about Xbox without talking about the better things that they think PlayStation is doing better. And we all know, trust me, we all know that these games are years away. I keep hearing conversations about what are you going to play on your Xbox day one when you buy it? And I'm like,
oh, dude, there's a tremendous launch lineup for.
There's a lot of games coming out. And guess what? They may not be games that you care about, but like I always tell people, buy when you feel like there's something for you to buy the system. Just because you don't like what's going on, that doesn't mean everybody else does it. And I'm sorry, Game Pass is a huge jumping off point for a lot of people, and some people just don't understand that. They just keep thinking that every new launch cycle needs to come with a bunch of new games. And guess what? I would love for there to be a new IP this generation for Xbox to launch the system with. I would have loved for Halo to be there day one. Everybody on this panel would have loved to see that.
Of course we would. Yeah.
But it didn't happen. So are we as Xbox fans going to dwell on the fact that we are getting a brand new system and no games to play on it for, say, brand new? Well, no, I'm just going to enjoy all the games that are coming out on the system. And guess what? I'm still buying a PlayStation 5 so I can play all your games that are coming out on your system too. So that's the difference between me and I feel like a lot of other people. And I feel like that's the difference between us on this panel and everybody else in games media, because we actually play games and we actually enjoy games for what they are, instead of trying to make fun of another platform for not having something that they feel like the perceived value is different over there.
No, I absolutely agree. Real quick, Bounty Boom, a good friend, generous friend of the show, drops an outstanding $2 super chat. Says, at work, listen, great show. Hit that like button. Well, dude, glad that we can entertain you. See, Everborn, I'm interested to know your thoughts and theories on this, because it does seem like the word double standard is something that we are constantly talking about, especially when it is the mainstream media. And to think that these so-called, and I use that in air quotes, professionals can get on their high horse and call Microsoft anti-consumer, and that this kind of a move is bad for the industry, tells me that they are not looking at this from a perspective of fairness. They're looking at it from simply a PlayStation mentality. And I hate to say this. Now, again, I don't know for sure if this in fact is a reality, but the younger generation of writers, and if you can call them that, you can call them journalists, you can call them whatever you want, are a different mentality than what we grew up with the Game Pros and the Gamers Republic and the diehard gamers. Those were journalists, and those told stories about games that they loved playing. You don't get that these days. What you get is biased opinion pieces. And like I said, I found it hilarious, because if Sony would have done this move, if this would have been the shoe on the other foot, Everborn, I think that there would not have been enough stories written by the media on how they just won the generation and how they're for the players and how all of these exclusives just killed Xbox. But we didn't see that because Microsoft made the big move because they financially can do it. What are your thoughts on this industry double standard at play?
Well, this is the topic this is what I came here for, folks.
Okay, get ready. Get ready.
I'll go down a little bit of journey. I hope that you guys can bear with me. So the first thing I will say is I won't even get to the word of double standard more so than I will say business, right? You have to understand these people are in the business of clicks. What they know, what generates engagement, right? And part of us as the guys here, or just the Xbox community at large, we are partly in a small way to blame for this. And I'm going to tell you why. Because when they do these things, we will reflexively go and retweet them and share their content just to tell everyone, look how much bullshit this is. I can't tell you how many times I've seen diehard Xbox guys. They'll follow like an MGB, or they'll follow a Mooch, and no, nothing wrong with those guys, but they'll follow these stories. They'll follow IGN and retweet IGN articles, retweet Reset Era articles that are either biased or in some cases purposely misleading, right? And so they know that when they write that kind of content and those salacious headlines, that it will get engagement, because the easiest kind of clicks to get are rage clicks, right?
Yeah.
And that's part of their business. So if you don't want to see it, right, as a community, don't share it, right? Don't go and say, oh, look at what this asshole's saying. It's completely false. Don't give them that view. Don't give them that click. And then maybe they will see some sort of negative effect. Now that's one part of it. Now there was this other narrative going about the anti-competitive, or I feel sorry for the gamer that can only afford one console, right? Right? Guess what? If you can only afford one console, there's one for $299 since you can only afford one.
Right.
And that one for $299, you can also get Game Pass with that. So if you're so cash strapped, which is totally fine, and you decide, hey, I can't really afford two consoles, but I can afford a $500 console with games at $70 a clip, I don't know, right? That argument doesn't hold water. But there's something even more insidious in some of these anti-competitive arguments, right? Which is, it says, and this is tied to the, Microsoft just they have to, it makes smart business sense for them to keep some of these new IPs that they've acquired multi-platform, because it comes from a mindset that Sony's players are in some sort of elevated status, meaning they don't see a world where Xbox could live without Sony fans, right? They think that if this purchase won't make sense if they don't cater to this person. What if poor Timmy really loves PlayStation, right? But here's the thing. The whole point of all of this is to release content in your ecosystem that has people making that decision. Why do so many people love PlayStation, right? Because they released exclusive content and people had to make a decision. Hey, I know Xbox has Halo, Gears, and Forza and Ori, but PlayStation has God of War and Uncharted and Spider-Man, and I want that more, right? So the idea that people should not have to choose, I don't have to choose. I have a PS5 pre-ordered. I hope.
Hopefully I got to order from Amazon, because they've been really hurting some people, man. I've been seeing some tweets not so good from Amazon.
An email from Target saying like the system should arrive between November 13th and 18th. I don't know what that means, but my larger point is it comes from a PlayStation centric view that says Xbox players don't matter. Because here's the thing: remember all the backlash that Phil got when Tomb Raider?
Oh my God, yes, great point.
Think about this though. How much backlash did Sony get when they locked down Street Fighter V?
None.
Street Fighter is, from its inceptions, from the day that it came to Super Nintendo and Genesis, this is from the beginning.
Yeah.
It has been a multi-plat game. And no one said anything. No one was concerned about the poor Xbox gamer, right? Nobody, nothing. Everybody, remember when everybody was talking about Sony is spending money? They're doing big business now. They're making deals to lock things down exclusively, spending money to keep the game off of Xbox because it's business. This is business. Take your feelings out of it. Take what's fair and what's right, when Amazon makes The Boys, they're not going to put it on Netflix because, hey, we could make a couple of more dollars there. No, they say we want people subscribed to our service, so we keep it here. Microsoft could have very easily gave Bethesda, let's say, $1 billion for a Game Pass play to put all your stuff in Game Pass in perpetuity. That's it. You can still make your games. Why would they spend $7.5 billion to not, if it is not to bolster? Here's the thing. Game Pass allows Microsoft to change the conversation from this includes the PC play and the xCloud play. It allows Microsoft to change the conversation from consoles sold to monthly active users. And why are consoles sold so important? Because this is your potential audience for selling peripherals, games, and microtransactions, right? So if Microsoft now says, hey, forget about how many specific Xboxes we sold. If you're a member of Game Pass and you're playing on PC or on your Android device or on your Samsung TV or wherever else we put this thing, you are a potential customer of what? Peripherals, in-app purchases, and other things, money that you'll spend in the ecosystem.
DLC, for instance.
Exactly. So these are all things. That's what's more important. And this has been said before, but Microsoft is playing the long game.
Yes.
Right? People ask, why doesn't Sony make a Game Pass play? Because they cannot afford to do it. Right? Microsoft, being the juggernaut of the company that they are, they can afford to make a 5 and 10 year bet where they don't see an ROI in that amount of time. Sony cannot do that, but what they will do is let Microsoft take all the arrows and build that market to change the mindset of the gaming audience, right? To where people are comfortable now saying, hey, I look at games like a Netflix subscription and I just have to have it. So now, Netflix may have, taken the arrows for everybody first and they're the market leader. But guess what? Disney Plus has 60 million subs now?
Mm-hmm.
Are comfortable with the idea of moving away from either physical or digital purchases into a subscription all-you-can-eat model. And Microsoft is changing that conversation. And this is why I've been a Microsoft fan since the days of the original Xbox, because they have been pushing the industry forward for 20 years now and kicking and screaming. If you liked your trophies now, you wouldn't have trophies if it wasn't for achievements.
Yes.
Remember when everyone laughed at Xbox for the Ethernet port, right? And I know Dreamcast came with the dial-up for online play, but when they were no longer in the picture, the Xbox came and took up that mantle. And so now again, and Sony laughed and tried to make fun of Xbox Live to play online, and guess what? Now you got PlayStation Plus. And so again, Sony just watches Microsoft create these markets, pushes the industry forward, and then they will jump on when they feel like it's safe, right? And that is,
and all the risk has been done.
And again, they do this in more ways than one. Look at what they did around the conversation about supporting the current generation consoles for a couple of years. Sony was silent, let Microsoft take all the arrows, and then when it's safe to come out, hey, I'm going to put out in a blog post, guess what? We're doing the same exact thing, right? They've been doing this forever and ever, and Microsoft will continue to push the industry forward. But back to the bias, it's about clicks. We shouldn't share those articles. We shouldn't give them our eyeball money, and it is inherently biased against the Xbox player, because what it says to you as an Xbox fan is that you don't matter. Only PlayStation gamers matter. So it sucks, but we shouldn't contribute to it by sharing that shit. I'm not even clicking on an article with a bullshit headline. You're not going to I'm not going to share it either. But anyway.
No, I mean, listen, dude, you completely knocked this topic out of the park. A good friend of mine that's listening, Jay the Destroyer, is like, this guy is legit. So good on you, dude, because you're impressing people for sure. And you definitely had a lot to say. You know, Mag, I want to bring you into the conversation because, you know what, at the end of the day, we do understand that it is for clicks. But there does come a point as a media personality or someone that works for a reputable place or supposed reputable place like an IGN or Kotaku or GameSpot. And you know what? Back in the days, they used to keep their editors and, of course, their journalists, tight, meaning that they would be, you had to, before something went to print, you had to be checked by somebody. Now it seems like it's the Wild West. And one of the things I find to be almost hilarious is the pocket watching that has gone on in the last couple of days, where these concerned citizens of the gaming industry, known as the journalists, are worried about Microsoft making their money back. How is Microsoft going to make their $7.5 million back if I can't play this game on my PlayStation 5? And again, it's a narrative. It's ridiculous. And again, I said this before, and this is not being a fanboy, folks. I hope Microsoft does what they are supposed to do when they are looking out for their customer, meaning that if you are an Xbox supporter, if that is where you lay your head at night, you want to know that Microsoft is going to make an investment in the brand. They have been doing it since pre-E3 2018. I talked about that at the beginning of the show, and they have doubled and tripled down on that fact. Keeping these games, I should say, on an Xbox platform /PC, which is another narrative that we talked about, how I don't need an Xbox. I can just go play on PC. Well, if you want to play a Bethesda game and you're a fan of Fallout, you can either buy an Xbox for $300 and play it at 1440p, potentially 120 frames per second, or you can go play it on your $3,000 rig. What are your thoughts on this particular topic there, Mac? I know you have a lot to say.
Oh, boy, do I ever. I hope you got your slickers on, guys, because the bringer of rain just arrived. This is the most ridiculous new narrative to ever hit the scene. But I'm glad they're saying it. You know what? I'm really glad, because it makes them look even more ridiculous and asinine than they already are. Xbox has no games. Now it's Xbox has too many games? Stop. Go home. Change into some comfy PJs, put on the kettle, have a nice warm tea, and find yourself a new hobby. Okay? Because this is a bunch of nonsensical buffoons. Let's face the facts here, folks. I've got nothing against PlayStation. I love PlayStation. I hate Sony, but that's neither here nor there. But if Sony was doing this, you clown shoes would be out there parading in the streets and would have zero issues with Sony locking up these titles or any titles behind the Sony brand. Zero issues. A lot of people out there have been poking that sleeping bear of Microsoft for so long that when that, not thinking that bear is ever going to wake up, but when it did wake up, all of a sudden they run to the corner and they're going, why did they wake up? It's because you've been poking the bear. What do you think was going to happen? I mean, cracking jokes, ridicule for years. They got nothing. Tune in the next day. Yeah, a clown said it about an hour ago. Papa Xbox, can we have some of these toys? No, little Jimmy, you can't. You want in? You got to get into the ecosystem. Everborn said it himself. It's business. We've already talked about that. Now, Monopoly my ass. Xbox is bolstering up their gaming studios because they've heard the cries of the gaming community. That's bad for gaming? Are you okay. I'm walking into Burger King right now. Hi, welcome to Burger King. Can I take your order? Yeah, I'd like a Big Mac, please. I'm sorry, sir. We only have Whoppers. Well, I want a Big Mac. Well, I'm sorry, sir. We only have Whoppers. If you want a Big Mac, you have to go to McDonald's. Well, I'm not leaving till I get a Big Mac. What you're doing is bad for the fast food industry. Go to McDonald's. Okay? Just because it was available once for everybody doesn't mean it's going to be like that anymore. Netflix has Marvel movies on it right now, but come January 2021, it's only going to be available on Disney Plus. It's business. Get over yourselves. And if you want to play these games, and guess what? Gasp. Okay, you'll have to adopt a different or secondary platform. This is the future we're facing as gamers. So you either accept it and stop whining about it or get out.
Yeah.
You know, I think certain people are upset because it's tough to throw stones when Microsoft has one by one been taking all those stones away from you. You know, and the other thing is they absolutely should lock all these games up. And, you know, I believe, and this isn't a biased opinion by any means, this is all business. Shout out to Mooch, by the way. I know I sound like you, okay? I know we come from the same cloth. But still, at the same time, I listened to Crossfire on Friday night, and he was saying that they should put those games everywhere to recoup such a massive investment.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to absolutely disagree.
Friends, but I disagree with that 100%.
I disagree 1,000%. And I'll tell you why. Because, you know, the company can absorb that kind of investment. It's Microsoft. They told the investors about a year ago to be prepared for major investments. Yes. And it's happening. And I understand the idea. Of putting these games everywhere. And last week, I said they will. But after sitting on this for about a week, I have to bend the knee and realize that I was absolutely 100% wrong. A big man can admit when he's wrong. Okay, I was wrong. I think that they need to lock these up. You want people on your platform, and you want to grow your user base to huge levels, not good levels, mediocre levels. You have to give the people a reason to go to your ecosystem. Xbox, at the end of the day, isn't Activision. They're not EA or Ubisoft making games for everybody. And then this business isn't exactly a charity. Okay, you want to run with the big dogs. You don't hand out IPs like Halloween candy. You lock it down to bring the people to you. And it's not like they're asking for your life savings to do so. You know, some of these assholes out there have been making it seem like jumping into the Xbox ecosystem is worse than pulling teeth. You know, cut the melodrama.
Yes.
For the love of Christ, cut the melodrama. Xbox is giving you every opportunity to jump into their ecosystem. Sure, you could get the big boy for $500, but you can get the Series X when it's available for $299, or even the One X or the S, which for almost pennies when these new consoles come out, and they'll be supported for years. Or xCloud streaming for $15 a month. At this point, there is zero excuse for not being able to join the Xbox ecosystem. But people don't want to because it doesn't fit their narrative, and they're worried that, you know, their image might be tarnished because, you know, it'll look like flip-flopping or whatever the hell you want to call it. I mean, let's call a spade here, folks. Okay, you know, anyways, back to the subject. Microsoft has given you all the tools to enjoy their products. You either do it or you don't. But don't cry foul if they lock it up. Disney locked up Marvel, Lucasfilm, Pixar, Indiana Jones, Star Wars, and I don't see anybody crying about it. But you know what I do see? I see a hell of a lot of people lining up pre-COVID at the movie theaters and subscribing to Disney Plus.
Yep.
That's called winning, and Xbox is clearly not done, and they're in it to win it. So you either get on the train or you get run over by it. There's no point in complaining because, mark my words, they ain't done yet, kids, so buckle up.
You know, one of the things I almost find funny, it's something that you Everborn both have said, is the fact that people do not want to buy an Xbox. You know, when you think about, and I've been banging this drum for quite a while. Anyone that's been following me and listening to my shows know that I said I believe that this particular generation is going to be one of the first generations where the dominance in the industry isn't going to be one console or the other. I think it's going to be a multi-tiered console that's supported in the homes. Now, I don't know who is going to, like, if you're buying an Xbox because you support PlayStation or you're buying a PlayStation because you support Xbox. I don't know what the ratio is going to be for that. But what I can say is that, like you said, Microsoft has given you numerous reasons to invest in their ecosystem, whereas Sony, I mean, look, let's just take, and I want to bring Tempest Sun into the conversation here. Let's look at what Sony is doing. Okay, Jim Ryan has come out and said that they have zero interest in doing a Game Pass service. As a matter of fact, and I don't have the quote in front of me, he insulted Microsoft, saying that you can't use your value as the face of your brand, meaning that he was insulting the games that they had in Game Pass, calling it product, basically. Know that in fact is not the case, because even before the Bethesda deal, what's coming into Game Pass in the next 2 to 3 years is going to be monster. But when you add something like Starfield, when you add something like Fallout 5 and the next Doom and the next Wolfenstein, and then of course you do have new IPs like Ghostwire Tokyo that are exclusive now for PlayStation because Microsoft is going to honor the deal. But those other two games are going to eventually come over right into Game Pass. So for $300, you go out and you buy the smaller system. You, for $15, have the world of games in front of you. Sony's not doing that. Sony is charging $70 per game for all of their first-party stuff, and they're charging you top dollar for a console that's underpowered. So my question to you is, when you see this narrative from, of course, the gaming media calling Microsoft anti-consumer and that this deal is not good for the industry and that all of these games should remain on Multi-Plat, do you find that to be almost preposterous?
Dude, it's been disgusting and it's been laughable. It's been so laughable that there's so much content that I haven't clicked on from the mainstream media. And listen, there's a huge divide. I mean, besides some of them were mentioned tonight, besides some like YouTubers or Twitter personalities, if you will. If you look at all like the major, YouTubers out there, they're all like, no, they're going to be exclusive. It'd be stupid of them to give Sony a cut. You don't need it. Why? But then you have the mainstream media, and that is the only thing that they could bring up. Is it going to be exclusive? Is it going to be exclusive? And, some people, like on IGN, they're like, yeah, it's going to be exclusive. And a lot of them were like, no, I don't think so. I think they need, they need the money. Like, they need the money. They just paid cash, $7.5 billion. Like, they don't care.
Let me just stop you there for a second, because I want people to take this into perspective. Do you understand when you say they need money? They spent more than Sony made in profit in 2019.
Yep.
Yeah, they do.
I don't think people understand it. Let me say that again, folks. If you are a Sony guy or gal, we're not jumping on the, on your back about this. But let's take this into perspective about how Microsoft needs the money, because there's pocket watchers at every corner.
Yeah,
Microsoft spent more on the ZeniMax deal than Sony made in the entire 12-month campaign of 2019. Put that into perspective for a second.
Oh yeah, I mean it's massive. But listen, I think it was Everborn that said it. Their goal isn't to make some money. Their goal is to make so much money that, I mean, they already do it, but that it's absolutely obscene. And how you do that is you don't stop at 15 million Games Pass subscribers. You shoot for that 150 million. That's your goal. And if that is your goal, you need to have an oppressive, not impressive, but an oppressive like amount of first party content. Something where I think it's already at that point now when you put in perspective the Bethesda acquisition, just in first party studios alone, you can't ignore the value. You can't. If you're a gamer and you're ignoring it, you're just doing yourself a disservice. And in my opinion, you're kind of being stubborn, right? It's just too good of a value. And listen, Microsoft doesn't make it hard. You're saying $299 for a console. Dude, it's $15. It's $15 in a phone. And everybody has phones. Don't you guys have phones? Listen, everybody has phones, man. It's $15. That's the barrier to entry to their content. So if anybody was going to borderline be pushing, which they're not because they put their stuff on everything, but pushing somewhat of like monopoly, you would want it to be the guys that are just giving you value on value on value. On the other hand, raising game prices, lying at every turn, being completely I can't find the right words for it, but like
anti-consumer might be a good.
There you go. Yes, anti-consumer. And you know what they're spending money on is to temporarily keep content from another platform. It almost, when you put the two in perspective, it's almost silly. One of them's buying these studios and making them first party studios, and they are completely funding from here on out any future products that these studios come out with, right? And on one hand, somebody's making a product, and then Sony's going in and giving them money and just saying, no, those guys can't have that. And that's what they're doing. You know, like if anybody's doing anything like not helpful to the industry, I feel like it's that, to be honest with you. And if they can get away with that, and then Microsoft just turns somebody into their own studio that they are going to have to spend money on, they're going to be the ones fronting the bill so these games can be made. They're the bad guys all of a sudden if they make it exclusive. I find it ridiculous, to be honest with you. I tell you what, though, if Sony goes to Microsoft and says, hey, we want to put Spider-Man, God of War, Last of Us on the Xbox, I'll be the first person on Twitter saying, hey, Phil, why don't you throw them a bone and give them some exclusive? But you know what? It's never, ever, ever going to happen. So, yeah. You know, anyway.
That's a great point. You know, Clowns, I want to bring you into the conversation because obviously, like myself, you are a comic book kind of a dude, right? And again, it's the double standards that we continue to see flourish within the industry. And it's sad, to be honest with you. It's frustrating. I got a little flustered before because, again, when some of the messages that I get trying to be fair are incredible. I mean, if you watch some of the comments, they are just unbelievable. I delete them all because I can't have that kind of negativity. So I kind of got a little way with myself. But when you think about Microsoft making this purchase, Phil came out and already said that they did that to prove to the Xbox investment, meaning the community members who invest in their ecosystem, that we are not only here for the long haul, that your voice has been heard. One of the things we've been crying for the entire generation of 7 years, they need more first-party games. They need more first-party bangers. They need more studios to make these games. Well, now they have 23, and they have 35 studios in total. Right? We know that we talked earlier. Satya confirmed they're going to get more. And what I find to be very, again, very counterproductive to the industry at large is when Spider-Man was announced as an exclusive, a character that's a third-party game, that you cannot play Spider-Man on your version of the Avengers, like myself, if you bought it for Xbox. What were some of the comments, Clowns? You remember? We'll go buy the PlayStation 4 version. Or you can play it on your PlayStation 5, or, tough titty, right? Like, too bad. And again, Microsoft does this big move. They're fortifying their gaming service. Their obviously Xbox Game Pass is a big part of the next generation push for Microsoft. And again, when you read the headlines, and there's been quite a few of them, and I'm not going to call out anybody in particular because, again, I'm not looking to go to war with any of these sites. So I'll say it as a general conversation. What do you think, bro? What are your thoughts on Microsoft being anti-consumer and this deal being wrong for the industry?
First of all, Microsoft is very far from anti-consumer. Let's talk about all the great stuff that they do for their customers, like all access for people who can't afford to buy a console outright. Let's talk about how Game Pass is very affordable for people who can't spend $60, $70 on a game. Let's talk about all those great things that Microsoft does for people. Or how about the fact that you can get Game Pass Ultimate and play it on your phone without even having to ever buy their hardware, or play it on your PC? Let's talk about those things, because that's very consumer friendly, whether people like to hear it or not. Microsoft locking down exclusives is not anti-consumer at this point, because Sony's been doing it this whole generation. Nintendo does stuff like that too. Phil came into this generation and he was like, you know what? I'm a gamer at heart. I want everybody to play everything. I'm not going to lock down exclusives. So he didn't lock down exclusives, right? And then all of a sudden, the press and everybody else, every Sony toxic troll out there, oh, Phil is weak. Xbox is weak. They don't got the money to buy exclusives. They're not going to buy exclusives. The brand's going to die. Microsoft's going to go bankrupt. They're going to fail. Xbox is done. One and done. Xbox is over. I'll never play Xbox again because they don't have exclusives. So at the end of this generation, Phil heard all those complaints. And you know what? He's like, I try to be nice because I'm a nice guy. I'm a gamer. I want everybody to play everything. But maybe all these people saying this, maybe there's some truth to that. So, Satya, can we get some exclusives? Can we lock down some stuff, buy some big studios? And all of a sudden, bam, Microsoft comes out, shows Sony up and says, you know what? You kept buying everything. Now it's our turn. We're going to do a little bit too, just because it's business. It's not personal, but you guys made it personal this whole generation. So we're gonna do a little bit of a here and there, only 7.5 billion. That's like pocket change to us. We walk around, it falls out of our pockets. And Sony's sitting there, they were bragging when they bought Insomniac with their $92 million market cap. And here comes Microsoft. Oh, well, it's our turn. We're gonna lock down a little bit. No, they heard everybody complain. They heard journalists make fun of them. They tried to be the nice guys this whole generation. And you know what? Everybody kept shooting Microsoft in the foot for being the nice guy. And they got tired of it. I mean, they really got tired of getting shot in the foot, getting put down constantly when they make the better hardware, when there's plenty of games on their ecosystem, but people just don't want to acknowledge how many games are on the ecosystem because it doesn't fit their narrative. It's Microsoft's turn. Everybody that wants to complain that they're anti-consumer, you know what? Shut up and go play on your PlayStation. Go play on your Nintendo. You don't like it? Don't play on Xbox. We don't need you over here. Because when you were bragging to us that you got locked down exclusives and Microsoft's weak, and if we owned an Xbox, we were fools. You know what? Tough luck now. It's all falling back in your face, so go cry about it. I own every system. I own every console. I never complained about exclusives, but I'm tired of hearing toxic trolls constantly throwing it in my face about these exclusives left and right. Oh, we got Spider-Man. Oh, Marvel's Avengers best play to place is play on Sony because Sony, and then all that narrative. Sony owns Marvel. No, they don't. Come on, man. Get serious. It's just a marketing deal. They don't own anything in Marvel. They just have the marketing rights for the movies. And you guys try to even throw that into the comic book fans' faces. Just grow up. And you know what? If you really want to grow up, go out and be a big boy, buy an Xbox and play the exclusives on Xbox and stop whining. Because Xbox fans have been doing that with PlayStation for years without complaining.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct. And you know something? I don't see what the big holdup is with people buying an Xbox. Again, if you don't want to spend the $500, let's say, for instance, and again, this goes back to exactly what everyone was saying. If you're going to go out and buy a $500 PlayStation 5 and $70 games and $10 more controllers and another HD camera. Listen, I'm not going to sit in front of you. I bought every peripheral for the PlayStation 5 launch. I'm more of a PlayStation 5 fan than most of these people that claim to be. I bought every peripheral, including the headset that was $100 on top of the disc version of the PlayStation 5 and the charger, and the HD camera. So I'm in it for the long haul. I don't hate Sony at all. I play them exclusively for their games, but they're exclusives. That's the only that I use them for. That same thing I use for Nintendo for. Again, what is the big deal of going out and buying an Xbox? Again, that's where the narrative ends. And if you can afford everything that I just said, you can afford $300 and $15 a month to support Xbox if you want to play the Bethesda games. Cybernox, you've been sitting there quiet. But before we get to you, brother, let me catch up on some of these outstanding super chats. Bounty Boom says, just chill, Boom, just chill. After dropping $2 super chat, thank you for your generosity. We have Infrablade drops a $2 super chat and says, this is what I call brand loyalty boycottism. Okay. I mean, I'm not sure if that's meant for us that we're too brand loyal with Xbox, but I support everything. So I'm not sure. House Flan, a good friend of the show, drops a $2 super chat and says, big up to GameStop for reserving my all XX Xbox Series X. Oh, good on you, dude. That is great that you were able to get that, because that's something that didn't go so good for Microsoft, but apparently they're making good on the promise, and I'm glad you were able to sign up for that. We have Black Eye Dog, a very good friend of the show, drops a $5 super sticker. We also have Zero Cool. I love that name. That is so good. He drops an outstanding $5 super chat, and he says, in Spanish, we have something where you don't poke the bear. Let me see if I could find it over here. Now, I can't read Spanish. I understand it a little bit. Thank you. My wife is Puerto Rican, but he says it means don't scratch the tiger in the balls. Yeah, well, certainly don't do that, because if you do, that's definitely going to be a problem. A very good friend of the show, Y9 Power, drops an outstanding $5 super chat. Says, thank you, preach. Thanks for sharing that gamer's emotion, not bashing anyone. Tables are turned. Well, listen, I normally don't go off the hook like that, but you know what? I let my emotions get away with me, and it happens as a host, and I'm not actually sorry. Every now and again, you got to kind of knock over a couple of stools for people to get the people to take you serious. But
hey,
Cybernox, yes, sir.
One other narrative that I hear getting thrown around a lot and has just been taken as gospel that has always kind of grinded my gears, which is, what are you gonna play when you get your Xbox? I'm gonna play games, right? like
I love it. I'm gonna play games. Yes.
2077 is going to be the biggest game of this year, and will probably be game of the year, and it will play best on Series X. That is what I'm going to play. And then when I'm done that, I'm gonna play Assassin's Creed Valhalla at 60 frames a second. And then when I'm done that, I'm gonna get back into Destiny and play the new what is it? Dying Light? Is that the new one?
Beyond Light.
Beyond Light. Yes.
I'm gonna play that, and then I'm gonna play the Descent, and then I'm gonna play the I don't understand what any of that talk is. That's just it's like okay, Halo's not there, but there are a ton of games to play, and people are pretending that they're not going to be playing those other games there. So I can't wait till both of my Series X's and my PlayStation get here. But there will be I will not have enough time to play all of the games.
Yeah, I agree.
Series X.
Literally, that becomes the problem. At least, listen, I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm loaded, but folks, I've been saving gift cards since my last birthday, folks. I mean, again, you're on a pension, you kind of budget your money a little bit, but listen, I've been ready for this for these consoles for over a year. And again, if times are tough, we understand you can't. Maybe you have to choose one. Maybe you can't get both. I hear you, but I'm going to be honest with you. If you had to have one that was going to give you more bang for your buck, it's not Sony. Sorry. Miles Morales, if you have a PlayStation 4, play it on that and get an Xbox. You know what? Horizon, the Forbidden West, you can play on your PlayStation 4. Get an Xbox, because you're going to get your money's worth, not only because of all the games that are already confirmed, but the games that are coming. But anyway, I'm not here to sell Xboxes or PlayStation 5s. I'm here to do a show live. And Cybernox, listen, the rhetoric in social media in the last, I don't know, it's a week since the announcement, has been nothing short of disgusting. I would even dare say it's embarrassing. And seeing people try to turn narratives against Microsoft for one of the most monumental moves in gaming history. Folks, I've been gaming since 78. Okay. And I have never seen anything quite this big. And what Microsoft has done in one fell swoop is basically give us potentially a AAA game if they wanted. Let's just, again, put this into perspective. If they wanted to, they could logistically give us a AAA game for 23 months in a row. Every month you can get a AAA game. Now, granted, that's not going to happen like that, but what if they gave you one every quarter? And they can do that now. There's nothing wrong with that. Buy an Xbox, for God's sakes. Well, what are your thoughts on the narrative that the media is trying to turn this into?
Man, boom, it's eye-opening, and it's a little bit disheartening as well. And I'm not talking about the fans. Like, fans of either platform are always going to be fans, right? There's always going to be that banter back and forth. Like, especially if you know, a fan of sports, it always goes back and forth, right? What's disheartening to me is kind of like you said, these paid professionals who are not supposed to. I mean, we all have these bias in us, right? But they're supposed to be professional and don't have that double standard, right? Microsoft has been getting the short end of the stick ever since. Remember when Microsoft tried to do a 1-year exclusive of Rise of the Tomb Raider?
It was, dude.
They couldn't even get off the stage, bro.
Yes.
It was insane. They couldn't even get off the stage without the media and everybody hackling right down the throat. How long is this exclusive? Is this, you know, indefinitely? What's going on? Like, what? So after the Sony showcase, Final Fantasy 16 was declared a timed exclusive. Nobody blinks an eye, man.
Nope.
Nobody says anything. And I understand the business aspect of it. That's fine. But these paid professionals are not supposed to be that way. It got so bad that, if you guys recall, Mike Ibarra, he used to work at Xbox for Microsoft, and he even tweeted it out that he was saying there was a lot of fans and there was a lot of press saying for Microsoft not to make Bethesda's game exclusive or timed exclusive. And he even said, if the tables were turned, I wonder if the message would be the same. And that's disappointing, man. And what's even more disappointing is that some of these paid professional journalists or influencers were supposed to be on Microsoft's side. That's what I don't understand. Listen, I'm all for, you know, everyone getting their games playing their games wherever they want to play. I'm all for that. But when one company has been doing that and you haven't said a word and you've been praising that and you've been calling that the reason why people gravitate towards such platform, and now Microsoft goes ahead and pulls a huge $7.5 billion move so they can potentially do the same thing, so people gravitate towards the platform where you can have an entry of $15 a month. You want to tell them not to do it? What? You tell them it's anti-consumer? What? Come on. The double standard is real. It was bad. I was like you, Boom. I was fuming. I was like, I can't believe what I'm seeing. And it's a little bit disheartening, man, that even these people that at that level, they can't keep their own bias or their own double standards out of it. Listen, Microsoft, I'm with Mag here. They just paid $7.5 billion for that whole acquisition. They're gonna do whatever the hell they're gonna do to bring people to their platform. Okay, whether that mean exclusivities to their ecosystem, good for them, good on them. They're giving you a multitude of ways for you to have an entry into that ecosystem. Okay. And also, like, my personal opinion is all the next gen games are probably going to be Xbox exclusive. Multiplayer games, games as a service, I'm questionable on it because, you know,
well, they wouldn't take it away from the community. Like, they wouldn't stop making.
But I'm talking about next gen only. Like, these cross gens right now, yeah, I can see it going everywhere. But next gen games only, Xbox Series X games only. Yeah, I'm not sure. But yeah, Microsoft, they have people working on this. I'm sure they went through every spreadsheet, every number, all the data that they had, and they said, no, we're making this huge move, and we're gonna try to bring as many, you know, subscribers to Game Pass or more people to our ecosystem as you can. And you know what? They have the right to. All the competition, everybody's been doing this for years, and now it's their turn to, you know, bring some people in.
No, absolutely. Well, folks, listen, we broke a couple of records here. Not only is this the longest primetime gaming episode in the history of doing this, and we've been doing this well over a year, we had 860 plus people tune in live at any given time, and that is pretty unbelievable. Real quick, Infoblade actually drops another $2 super chat and clarifies what he meant. I misunderstood it. He says, referring to what the PlayStation loyalists are doing. Indeed, sir. Sorry for the crossed wires. We also have a $20 super chat come in from Bruno Carvalho. He says this after being very generous with a $20 super chat. Says, media turned into a clickbait industry. On the last generation, a lot of journalist positions got filled by what gave a lot of clicks at the time. Critic Microsoft. That created a bubble where no other opinions get in. That's very true. And again, I think it has a lot to do with the fact that they are young. And I'm not saying that if you're young that you don't have a place, but I just think that they're immature. And I agree with you. We have Gamer by Choice, who drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, people's mindset, unfortunately, is it's okay if it benefits me, but it's not, but if it doesn't, then it's anti-consumer. Very well said. But listen, folks, we're gonna get everyone out of here. We're gonna get to the obviously the outros. I want to thank everyone, the 860 plus people. I want to obviously thank the sheriff, known as Lethal Papa, locking the streets down, keeping the trolls away. And of course, the moderators do a tireless job. I just want to let you guys and gals know that I am tremendously grateful for the work that you do. Obviously, we have Sikyo Yumi dropped a $2 super chat. Says facts. Office, Teams, plus LinkedIn prove Game Pass equals success indeed. But Everborn, first of all, dude, I hope you enjoyed yourself on this very extended version. Normally it's 2 hours and we're out of here, but this one is a little bit of a salty one. And of course, there's no time limit for anyone's opinions. Thank you so much for reaching out, and obviously we will have you back on this program. Do me a favor, dude. Tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, but more importantly, check out your outstanding content.
Yeah, man. So you can find me everywhere. When I say everywhere, I mean Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at The Everborn.
Uh-oh. No.
Mayday.
Yeah, I think he froze. We'll come back to him in a hot second. Let's start with the Mag. Mag, do me a favor, brother. Tell everyone where they can reach out to you on social media, but more importantly, reach out to you on some of the other shows that you're on.
Well, yes, absolutely. And by the way, breaking news, Everborn was just kidnapped by Jim Ryan for the comments tonight. Yes, facts. Anyhow, guys, it was a wonderful show tonight. Chat, you guys were unbelievable tonight, and we broke a live attendance record, so super happy to say that. It was a great show. You can follow me on Twitter.
Hey.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll come back to you in a second, Everborn. Yeah, you timed out for a second.
You can follow me on Twitter at the Middle Age Game Guy. That's with a GY at the end. You can follow me on Xbox. It is all capital letters, one word, DEDMEAT1. That is Dead Meat 1. You can follow me on the PlayStation. All capitals, one word again, because I do not know how to be quiet. It is I am the Mag, all capital letters. And of course, you can find me here every Monday night at 8 p.m. for Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and friends. And every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can find me with the one and only Noof Nukem and Titan Drago on Gaming After Dark. That will be tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And yes, again, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Everborn, for being here. And of course, all the regular crew members and chat. We will all see you next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So everyone, let's get back to where the people could find your content, because you broke up at the last when you just when you were about to give us the goods.
No, I was saying if you want to get a hold of me personally on Twitter, it's at Steve AM Johnson. That's Steve AM like the morning time Johnson. That's where you'll talk to me personally. And if you want to know anything about Everborn, just check out Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at The Everborn. We have some new comics we're getting ready to release. We just released the Ultimate Edition of Everborn Prince of Arcadia. Everborn Ariel's Adventure will be out soon, and Everborn The Redlands will be out by the end of this year. We also have a novel coming out. Our game will be out soon. I am the lead and only programmer on that thing. But again, The Everborn, if you want to know anything about this world we're creating, and if you want to talk to me on Twitter, it's Steve A.M. Johnson.
Well, listen, everyone, it's been great to have you on. We want to, when you get some updates, you let us know, and we will circulate your information. The artwork that you do looks amazing. Obviously, everyone loved the background that you got going on, and obviously, we want to kind of help everyone we can, especially the small content creation community. And I mean, I think at the end of the day, that's what we are supposed to do. I wish more would do that, but I am certainly going to get you back on here again to talk about that at a later date once you got some more information for us. So thank you so much for being here. And of course, let's continue with the outros. Tempest Sun, brother, you obviously had a lot to say, and of course you knocked it out of the park. Where could people reach out to you on social media and potentially get dead by you? Because obviously you are an assassin.
Get dead by you.
Oh god. Okay. At the Tempest Sun, and my gamer tag is Tempest Sun, and I've been in such. Let me tell you this. I've been in such a gaming rut because there's two things I can't get off my mind. It's Valhalla and it's Cyberpunk 2077.
And you can't play either of them just yet.
I can't play them just yet, but out of nowhere, I knew it was coming, but I didn't put any forethought behind it whatsoever. Free on PC, iOS, and Android, and on PS4 too, I believe. Genshin Impact just launched, completely free. There's ways they can make their money. Don't worry about them, but completely free. My wife and I are just like freaking hooked on it. It's like a Zelda Breath of the Wild type of game. You don't need a powerful PC to play it. I actually tried it on my phone because I loved it so much on PC. It plays well on your phone. So go give it a try if you like anime stuff, or if you like Zelda Breath of the Wild. It plays a lot like that. So except with no weapon breaking. So
nice.
Yeah,
nice.
It's awesome. So I'm like, yes, I got something to play.
Okay, well, I've been playing the heck out of Mafia. I don't know if people are into that. Clown,
Yeah.
it is so good. Oh my god, it is so good. If you ever played the original, the work that they did on this is Resident Evil 2 level remake, folks.
Nice.
It is so well done, and it's $40 unless you buy the trilogy for $60. But you know, I already own the other two, so I didn't need them. But this one, the definitive Mafia Definitive Edition, certainly worth your time. I'm hooked. It just so happens that I had a nice Italian dinner on Saturday.
Nice.
While I was playing with that. And of course, clowns. Speaking of clowns, you'd appreciate that. Do me a favor, brother. Tell everyone about 4 Guys with Quarters, but also where could people reach out to you on social media?
Yeah, you can find me at Italian Clowns with the Z on almost all social media. 4 Guys with Quarters on Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern. We're gonna have Crispy Bomb on and Gaz from Game On Daily. You can find me on Primetime Gaming Monday nights and Game Beyond the Box on Wednesdays nights. And I do a show with Flamish, the Belgian sensation across the nation. I'm sure almost everybody's heard of him by now. He's a very energetic kid. 4GQ TV News 3 days a week. And he streams a lot on my channel lately. So, yeah, check us out.
Nice, brother. Well, you got a lot going on. Obviously, you are busy, but thanks so much for being here. Cyber Knox, my brother. Where could people check out your outstanding YouTube channel, but also reach out to you on social media and potentially strike up a conversation?
Yeah, man, definitely. Thanks so much. Everborn, pleasure meeting you, sir. Hopefully we can do more podcasts in the future. Cybernox everywhere, guys. You guys already know Cybernox on Twitter, Xbox, Twitch. Just follow me anywhere. And if you guys want to, sign me up to start singing at any of your shows, anything like that, you heard the voice of an angel, okay, at the beginning of the show. So just hit me up. All right.
Do sing so well that you're gonna get an Xbox Series X out of it.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, boom! I like how
awesome show tonight, guys.
I like how when they get a hold of Cybernox, they get a conversation, but when they get a hold of me, they get dead.
I mean, listen, you are the assassin. Come on, your skills are legendary, and people need to be afraid. You know what I'm saying?
That's funny.
And of course, Gaming Forte, you were late to the party, but you know what? You got here in the nick of time on 2 monster topics that, of course, you killed. Tell everyone where they can check out your ever-growing and outstanding YouTube content. Tell us about this potential bet that you win. I think you're going to win this one. To be honest, I think Slow-Mo is going to have to be paying the piper here. And where could people reach out to you on social media?
Yeah, first of all, man, like Everborn, very nice to finally chalk it up with you, man. Did a great job today, man. Shout out to everybody else on the panel. You guys are all professionals because I didn't even have to say nothing because you guys covered all of the. I was like, I can't remember the last time I was like, man, I don't even need to add to none of this stuff because they got everything covered, which is what's up because I do too many podcasts in 1 week. I got to save my voice sometimes. But look, man, it's Gaming Forte everywhere, YouTube, Twitter. Check us out tomorrow. DPS podcast tomorrow on Slow-Mo Backslap's channel. That's gonna be at 9 p.m. tomorrow. Check us out over there, and then also check us out on the Brat podcast Wednesday nights 9 p.m. EST. Gonna be a great time there. And the bet that he is talking about is the fact that Slow-Mo bet me that PlayStation was going to outsell Microsoft this holiday. I said Xbox is going to probably have more systems and they're probably going to outsell them. And guess what? This news today just kind of cements in my mind that Microsoft, with all of the different moves they're making, with all access, with $299 systems, the fact that Game Pass is going to be accessible to everybody, I just think this is a lock. So root for your boy. As long as Microsoft wins NPD this holiday, your boy gets something out of Slow-Mo, which is always a great thing. But you guys have a great week, and I will talk to you guys in the next podcast.
Well, listen, everyone, I want to thank once again the panel for staying extra almost 50 minutes, folks. This is the longest show in the history of this program. We hope everyone enjoyed themselves. Obviously, everyone had amazing opinions. I want to thank the chat for being here again. 860 plus people, almost hitting that 900 mark. We broke records all over the place. And of course, the generosity that continues to be shown is unbelievably and extremely humbling. So thank you so much for the super chats that continue to come in. And of course, I'm going to close out the program with something that is important to me, and hopefully it one day will be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught me when I was a kid, stayed with me my entire life, made me a better police officer, and also, more importantly, a better human being. And he used to say, son, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, and I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone, and we'll see you next week on the newest episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and Friends.